We are live on a Tuesday edition of the Sports Bash here on 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app, live video, YouTube streaming there. I'm your host, Mike Gill. Josh Jennings producing today's show. You out there, what's up, everybody? Glad to see everybody's doing well on a Tuesday. Seemed like a beautiful day outside. We've got a lot to dive into on a Tuesday where the Eagles are getting now ready for the New Orleans Saints. Week 10 is in the books, and if you were watching Monday Night Football last night, there's just another example of how things are so wonky week to week in the NFL. My preseason NFC West pick, you saw why I picked them to win the division early in the season last night. San Francisco whips L.A., and we've got a logjam all over the NFC. Who's in, who's out today, and I promise that will be one of the most difficult who's in, who's out. I looked at it earlier today. I mean, I cannot find 7 playoff teams on both sides of the ledger. It's a big problem trying to find 7 playoff teams on both sides. I mean, the AFC is just littered with mediocrity. The NFC is a little bit more top-heavy. The bottom half of the NFC is a disaster. Who's in, who's out? My 14 playoff teams later on today on the Sports Bash. You guys out there, love when you guys get involved on the show, so we're going to do a couple things today to get you involved. 609-403-0973 is the text board. 609-403-0973. That gets you involved on the text board. 609-403-0973. You can also download the free mobile app. If you're listening on the app, you can just hit the Message Us feature on the app, and that will come to us as well. So you can message us through the app, text us through your phone. If you're watching live video on the YouTube channel, you can just leave a message in the comments section, and we will hit on those as well. And, of course, you can hit us up. I like to say the old-fashioned way. Who picks up the phone and calls anybody anymore? At 609-573-3776. 609-573-3776. Josh, who was the last person that you picked up the phone and just called? Do you have you don't take me as a guy who picks up the phone and calls anybody very often.
My dad.
Today? It was like a week
night.
ago?
Actually, last night.
You picked up the phone and called your dad last night, other than a family member. When was the last time you picked up the phone and called a friend? Somebody, anybody.
I'd have to look at my phone list.
Right? Now, I called someone this morning, actually, but that's rare. Like that I just said, hey, you know what? I'm going to call somebody. I have like 1 or 2 friends that are still holding on to the phone call, which is a good thing. Like, you know, and it's funny, my one buddy, I'll call him, and I know if he doesn't pick up before the damn phone even starts to ring, he's not answering. He is a quick answer. Like, I'm not a quick answer because my phone is never on.
Right, I'm the same way.
Yeah, I'm always on silent.
If you call me, it's probably going to take you about 3 or 4 rings till I get to it.
Yeah, I'm not like an anti-phoner. I just feel like in today's day, no one used the phone. Let me look at I called someone this morning, and that was rare. My mother, I called my mom last night. She had a little bit of a situation. I had to call her to make sure she was okay. Other than that, I mean, I called my next door neighbor the other day. I asked him where he orders Chinese food.
Okay.
Like, what's your go-to Chinese food in this area? I called and said to him. He's like, my next door neighbor's like having Cosmo Kramer live next door to me.
I've met your next door neighbor.
Would you say that's a good description?
It's a solid description.
Right. I would say my next door neighbor is like having Kramer living next to me, that I would just ask him any random question that comes to mind. So the other night, we're discussing what we want to do for dinner, and I bring up Chinese. Well, we don't really have a like, since I've moved, I don't have like that go-to Chinese place anymore, right? Everybody has like their go-to pizza place, sub shop, especially like I grew up on the island. And over there's like a bunch of choices. Like there must be 48 pizza joints, right? There's 72 Chinese restaurants on the island. So like everybody has theirs. Offshore, I don't really have my spot yet. My neighbor, he's the one who's like, you got to go here. You got it. So I called him the other day. That's like the last phone call that I've made. Hey, man, where do you order Chinese food from? He had it for me right off the bat.
Well, but that's the thing. You knew if you called him, you would get an answer.
Definitively. He wasn't going to be like, oh, I don't know. Even if he didn't know, he was going to make something up.
I think part of the whether you call or text has a lot to do with the person you are contacting. Because sometimes if you call someone, they're not going to answer.
Now, oddly, my next door neighbor, unbeknownst to me, was a childhood friend of mine. Like, I moved there, and then he happened to live next door. And I was like, what are you doing here? He's like, I live here. What are you doing here? I was like, well, I just moved in here. Right. So I did know the guy before I moved to the area. So that was, helpful.
Always a plus.
Oddly, the person that lives on my right-hand side, if they came in right now, spit in my face, I would have no idea who they are. The guy and the
aggressive description.
Exactly. Well, I'm just saying, if they did something disgusting to me, I wouldn't be like, hey, you're my next door neighbor. Right? I have no idea what they look like. I've never seen them.
All right.
The people that live across the street from me. Now, this is interesting. I couldn't pick them out of a lineup, I don't think. Yet, there's many people in my circle of friends who know them.
That's interesting.
Right? They're like, oh, so-and-so lives across the street from me. I'm like, huh?
So you're like, I only know this person through the proxy of the people that
I've only met them like a handful of times. I've met them like once, and this has had to be like I never see them. Isn't that weird? Someone lives directly across the street from you, and you can never see this person. Now, I walked into a store the other day, and I walked in, and I had to drop something off at this store, and the guy who works at the store says, oh, so-and-so lives right next to you. And I'm like, oh, yeah, who's that? Thinking it's going to be my next-door neighbor.
Right.
No, some other person. I said, you know what? You're like the fifth person who has told me that this guy's family lives on my street.
Right.
And I have no idea who this person is. I don't know where they live. I don't know who they are. I couldn't pick them out of a lineup. And look, I'm outside a lot. Like, we're outside. Like, we have, a driveway with a basketball court. Right. And, I'm coming in.
It's like you're sitting in the house all the time.
No, but I will say, we do have a back porch, screened-in back porch. Mm-hmm. So we do spend a lot of time on the back porch. So that during the summer months when it's nicer out, there could be a whole world going on my front side of the yard. Have no idea, right? You've been to my house. We have that back porch. You don't have no idea what's going on in the world out there.
Right. And you have it set up so that, if you have someone come over, it's set up for you to be on the back porch or in the backyard.
And my next door neighbor, his main door is right on my backyard. Right. So I see him all the time.
Right.
So where does he get Chinese? I got Chinese actually not with him. He gave us
because
the
of him.
But that's the last phone call I've made.
But that's the thing. Like I said earlier, you called him because you knew if you called him, he would answer. And I feel like part of the communication world we live in is we communicate with people depending on what we know is the way they're going to get back to us.
Right. Like, is this person actually going to answer the phone? Now, I know if it's Saturday, on a weekend, I know, I'm not getting anything from you, pre-noon.
Right. Well, on Saturday, I'm here with Billy, so.
Well, okay, so Sunday. In other words, if something goes wrong on Sunday, there's not going to be much help from you until about the noon hour.
Well, the thing with me is that I've been sleeping with my phone now. So if if I see that very recently, yeah.
Like in the last week?
Last month.
Well, I was saying, because there was something that happened a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, but I called you around 10:50, I think.
Yeah, something like that. So, so normally, on the weekends, if something goes wrong, they'll usually call you first and then me. If they go to me, it typically means they tried you and you gave them no answer.
Right.
Right. So that's what happened a couple of weeks ago. Something happened.
Right. It was 11:03 on
Okay, so it was 11, and something happened, and then somebody notified me, and I'm like, well, I don't know what to do.
Right.
It was a technical situation, which is kind of out of my pay grade,
Well, the point is that, when I see that you called, for example, it must be important. So I need to stop what I'm doing.
Yeah, if I call you,
I know I need to stop what I'm doing and call you
back. If I pick up the phone to call, that's the point. If somebody actually, so that's the question, really. If your phone is ringing and it's someone that that you typically text with, but now they're choosing to call you, does that mean this is a heightened emergency?
I think it's a raised level of importance. Yes.
Right, exactly.
Now, for example, though, I still have a group of people who leave me voicemails. We've had this conversation before as well. So to me, there are certain people who call me, and they're all my family. My family will leave me a voicemail. So I know that if I have a voicemail, I need to check the voicemail first before I call them back.
Yeah.
Because I know.
Because I'll say, did you listen to my message?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly how the conversation starts.
Yeah, it's funny because somehow my voicemail box is like overloaded, to the point where someone says, well, I couldn't leave a message because you have too many things in there. And it's all just like ridiculous,
useless.
No, like robocalls.
Okay.
Like, oh, your the insurance on your car.
Congratulations.
Something to that. That must have like 8 of them.
Yeah.
I was having this discussion today. I don't know how we got on the topic of calling somebody. How did that even come up?
Well, I think you were offering people to call if
the
they wanted
old-fashioned way
Right.
of connecting with the show,
right?
Which is to call 609.
Because you were saying
that's right.
There's
You're
an open forum of topics.
That is good. No, there is a lot of topics today. One,
I'm not Pete Thompson.
You listened and you got them. That's good because I don't even know how I got to the phone thing. But you're right. I said. You can call, you can text the show, you can message us through the app, you can message us on the video stream, or you can go the old-fashioned way and call us. And then somehow that brought me down a rabbit hole of calling. But
and here we are on the Sports Bash.
And here we are. So I was having a conversation today. This is totally off topic, but if you want to get involved on this conversation, I'm going to throw this out throughout the day, and I'll tell you why this came up. What is the first album, tape, or CD that you ever bought?
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, is it the first one that I bought with my money?
Like
or
you yourself, like, I want to get this, and I'm buying it myself. Not like your mom or dad got it for you for Christmas.
Right. My own money. I went into a store and went and bought this.
Yeah. What is the first? Now, I had to say album, tape, or CD. And here was my question. This is how it came up. So we were talking the other day how I went to see Stone Temple Pilots, right?
Yes.
And they have a new album out.
Mm-hmm.
And my question was, what is the new album? What is it? You know what I'm saying? Physically, what is the device?
What does it look like?
What is it? Is it a CD? It's not a tape, obviously. It's not an 8-track. What is the album on? What is the physical presence of the album?
It's a valid question.
What is it?
It's a very valid
because
question.
everything's digital, right? Like,
right.
So if you say, hey, they have a new album out, can I physically buy an album? Or not an album, but I guess you can buy an album. I was having the conversation and found out that actual vinyl is coming back and people's albums are on vinyl.
Well, the other question I was going to ask is, when you were at the concert, was there an area that you could have bought merchandise?
There was T-shirts and stuff, but I didn't really stop and investigate.
The reason I asked is I haven't been to a concert in a little while.
Mm-hmm. Okay, neither had I.
It's been at least a few years.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember when you used to go to concerts, there was that area where you could buy shirts and CDs.
They had that. I don't know about CDs, but that's the thing. Are they still making CDs? Is somebody like, is there a place? Like, I used to work when I was like in college. I worked at the Wall.
Okay.
Yeah. So that place is obviously out of business.
Right. It's not there anymore.
Sam Goody was the competitor. They're out of business.
Right.
Right. You remember when I guess I had to be in high school and they used to have like BMG, those like Columbia House, and you would get 10 CDs for $1.
Right.
Oh, no, a penny. It was a cent. It was 1 cent.
Right. It was like a monthly subscription.
Yeah. You were supposed to, like, if you ordered the CDs for the penny, then you were like locked into buying other CDs, and no one ever did that. You just ended up getting 10 free CDs.
Right. Then you just cancel the subscription.
Right. So how is the new music distributed? Is it on an album?
I'm glad you asked this question.
Something that is evolved like since the CD? What is the way that you play the new music that's not digital?
This is a perfect question, because I had this same question recently.
Yeah, which
because I have a buddy of mine. Okay, he has a band. They're called Goalkeeper, and they're a fun kind of like alternative rock, punk rock band, you know. And they travel around and they do tours.
Mm-hmm.
And then he came out with an album recently, and he was promoting it on his Instagram, his Facebook, and he's promoting it not to buy the album, but to download it on Spotify or Apple Music.
Right. So that's the way So if you have a new album out, you're Stone Temple Pilots, and you have the new album, is there a physical album?
I'm assuming you can get a physical album, but most people seem to be promoting it as digital download.
Like, I don't Spotify, I don't even know. I know I've heard of it. I don't even know what the interface looks like.
I've been using Spotify for years.
Okay. So when I listen to podcasts, I use Google Podcasts.
Yeah, I'm going to hand you my phone so you can look at what Spotify looks like.
Yeah, no, I okay, so it looks like my Google Podcast essentially. Okay. Yeah. So that essentially is where the new album is?
Right, well, you can search albums on here.
Man, that sucks.
It's weird.
Right, like the whole thing, like, so what was the first album or tape, like cassette tape or CD that you ever bought? I know what mine was. I rode my bike. Now, I was living in Linwood at the time. I was in high school. And I rode my bike from where I lived in Linwood all the way over to what was then James Way.
Oh, yes.
Right? Over here on Tilton Road in Northfield.
We're technically where, what is there now? Is that Target?
No. Target's not in Northfield. It's right over here where the movie theater is.
Oh, okay.
That movie theater area, there was a James Way there.
Right. Yeah.
And I bought
Ashley Furniture.
I bought an REM cassette tape. Okay. REM, that was my first.
I was mixing up Summers Point in Northfield.
Yeah, I bought the REM cassette. That was the first one that I bought with my own money. I rode my bike. I was like, I'm getting this tape. I want to hear this tape. I want to get it. And I got it. And I rode my bike all the way there. And I got REM. I don't even know what the name of the album was anymore.
I feel like there's a point in time in my life where I was at the James Way in Seaville once a month.
Is it still open?
The James Way?
Yeah.
No, that closed like a decade ago.
I don't know. I haven't been there. When was the last time I was in Seaville? I'm sorry. No offense.
If you go to Seaville, you won't recognize it. I guarantee you that.
Stan in Galloway bought Metallica Master of Puppets. Solid.
Mine was Linkin Park Hybrid Theory.
You're a little younger.
Yeah. Now, the thing is, though, all the tape cassettes I had, my parents had bought me over the years. So my first thing I bought for myself was a CD because I got tired of borrowing my buddy's CDs because I had a Walkman.
Now, when you were old enough, like, were CDs now coming around?
Yeah, when I was in high school, I was the kid who made you all the mix CDs.
Oh, wow. You were that guy. That guy was hard to find.
I was the guy who had LimeWire and FrostWire and all those programs on my computer. And people would come to me and be like, hey, man, I want a mix CD of this. So I would download their music. I'd make them a CD and, you make a little money.
I remember, so
a little hustle guy.
I had this little crappy car when I was like, old enough to drive. And I remember getting a CD player installed into the car. They took out the radio from the car and put in the, CD player one. And I thought that was like the greatest thing ever.
So what I had the thing that plugged into your CD Walkman is a tape cassette. And the tape cassette got put into the tape player. I had that.
Yeah, I went right to the CD player in the car. That was like my big thing. I'm like, I got to get a CD player in the car. But when I was older, and like when I was in high school, cassette singles were really big.
Okay.
You would get the cassette single, and the one side would just be like the hit song, and then the other side was like the B track.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so that's basically, and then the CD started. The cassette single thing was like a fad. It didn't last too long, but Mike, I thought you were going to say you bought your first cassette tape at good old Akrat. Akrat's right on the corner where we work here. You ever go to Akrat?
I mean, a long time ago, obviously.
Well, I don't know. I mean, you're not from this Northfield specific area.
No, not specifically, but there was a point in time because of my dad's job that I was up here a bunch of times.
Okay, well, yeah, the Akrat was basically a little shop right over here. It sold like CDs. It had like, some smoking paraphernalia, if you will, like blacklight posters.
Right.
It was basically like a small version of what the Surf Mall is on the Ocean City Boardwalk.
Yeah. So there was a point in time where my dad was working in Atlantic City almost every single weekend at one point in his second
Atlantic
job.
City, you still wouldn't be at Akrat.
No, but I would be in the Atlantic County, Northfield, Linwood areas because just, how, you leave Atlantic City via the south end and then you come into Atlantic County. It's like, all right, Wendy's, or wherever else we're going to eat.
All right, Wendy's. That's the top spot on the way home.
What was one of them?
Tim in Millville. Yes, they still put CDs out. I still buy them. I like having the physical copy. Then I download it to my computer. CD stays perfect that way. I get, yeah. You know what's funny? Like, I'm not like a Best Buy guy. I'm not like going to Best Buy every single weekend. I might go to Best Buy like once a year. Do they still have a CD section there?
There is a CD section, yes. And I've seen it. I was in Target recently. I saw it in Best Buy several months ago, and I saw it in Walmart.
So that's where you go.
So if you want to buy a CD, you can find a CD.
You can still get the CD then, you're saying?
Yes.
This guy says he bought an 8-track. Kim Carnes, Betty Davis Eyes. The 8-track. Yeah, I'm too young for the 8-track. I don't remember the 8-track.
I was going to say, the 8-track is not your age range.
No, I'm just a little too old, a little too young for the 8-track.
Yeah.
The cassettes were...
That's maybe more Pete Thompson.
Like when I was a kid, we used to put the blank cassette into the tape player
and record off the radio.
I
did that.
So you had to sit there and listen for the radio to play the song you wanted. And then, of course, the jackass would be talking over so you would have on your mixtape, like, and coming up here on the top 9 at 9, we've got,
right.
Yeah. It's like, I don't want to hear you with the top 9 at 9. Get out of my way. So you would have like the songs and some rando dude talking in between your songs all the time. But you listen to that tape so much, you knew the pattern of when it was happening.
Right, you knew where to skip, where to fast
man,
forward.
we'd sit there at night because you're listening, and at night they do like the top 10 at 10 or 9 at 9 or whatever uncreative thing that they can come up with. And you're like, all right, these are the best 10 songs of the day. I want them on my mixtape. And you're like, here's number 10. And you're like, oh, this song sucks. So that's like, oh, I gotta wait for number 8. 8's gonna be the song that I want, Green Day, that's a good album. That was the first one that he bought. My first was a 45 record, Paul McCartney, Band on the Run, Darren in Millville. So a little 45 for you there.
All right.
Croce says, Nevermind from Nirvana. Remember the old CD clubs?
Ooh.
They sent you the pamphlet of CDs. Yep, that's what we're talking about. The
Columbia House,
or I think it was BMG was the other one.
BMG was another. There was a third one too for a while there. I forget the name of it.
John in Hamilton, Big John in Hamilton. I'm sorry. He says first album I ever bought was on vinyl. Guns N' Roses, Appetite for Destruction. Now, Appetite for Destruction, I think, had a CD. So you I guess vinyl might have still that's an odd thing to get on vinyl. Appetite for Destruction would have been on cassette.
I would assume, I assume it came out on a cassette, but if you're going for vinyl, that must have been like a special edition.
Mike, James Way closed in 1995. Sorry. I was just in Jamestown, New York, too. I think that's where it originated. Jay from Atlantic City. Ironically, guys, my first cassette tape ever bought is sports-related. When the Sixers won the championship, I think it was 83, my mom and dad kept me out of school and took me to Philly to see the parade. Afterwards, we went to the mall. I think it was a gallery mall, and my dad bought a cassette tape of the group DeBarge. I could have sworn, Jay, now correct me if I'm wrong, that Chico DeBarge just got arrested for something. Can you look that up for me?
I'm looking it up right now.
Chico DeBarge, I think, was just arrested recently for something. Jay in Atlantic City, can you validate that Chico DeBarge? Now, why would I know that? You want to know, right? Why would I know that Chico DeBarge possibly just got arrested?
He just got arrested 2 days ago.
Yes.
For meth possession.
Meth. What else? I thought it was multiple things.
He also had his motorhome impounded for not paying it, it looks like.
Jay, don't ever accuse me of not being well-rounded. I mean, you throw DeBarge at me, and I told you Chico DeBarge just got nailed for something.
According to TMZ, cops got a call on November 6th about a man causing a disturbance inside a motorhome. And when they arrived, they made contact with Chico DeBarge and noticed the RV had expired over 6 months ago.
Chico DeBarge.
TMZ was told by police that they impounded the vehicle immediately, and upon further search, officers found methamphetamine and other drug paraphernalia inside the ride.
Poor Chico. Now, you thought I was making that up.
I don't know if you're making it up or not, so I looked it up.
Hey, you could fact check me. I don't just throw random stuff out. When I say it, it's gold, baby. Gold, Jerry, gold. Jay in Atlantic City.
It's pretty close.
He tried to throw DeBarge at me, and I got him. That was a good pull by you there, Jay in Atlantic City.
By the way, this is
Mike, the first tape I bought was on a family trip to Ohio. I walked into a grocery store and bought Michael Jackson's History, a double tape. I like that.
Wow.
The old double tape. You didn't see that too often.
By the way, Chico DeBar has been arrested twice this year alone.
Ooh. Mike L. in Ocean City used to love when you had to make a decision to buy cassette tape or album. My first was Van Halen 1. Really dating myself, huh? That's what I'm trying to find out, Mike. I want to know the age of the listeners today. That's my underlining factor here of what I'm trying to get to.
You're trying to understand who's listening.
Right?
To the
I
show.
want to see what my demo is. Van Halen 1, not so bad. One guy had Betty Davis eyes.
Right?
My first cassette was Rob Bass and DJ Easy Rock. Hit it! All right, we're back with more Sports Bash on the way. Hey, send me a text, 609-403-0973. What's the first album, tape, or CD you ever bought? Plus, coming up, what if Jalen Hurts turns out to be ... I have the comparison next. 232 Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. I'm your host, Mike Gill. What's up, everybody? So this is the first album that I ever bought. It was REM, Out of Time. That was the name of the album. So this was the big song on it, Losing My Religion. But it wasn't my favorite song on them. That one just happened to be the radio song, which ironically enough, the first song on the track listing was called Radio Song. That was my favorite song on the album. Losing My Religion was number 2 in terms of the order, but Shiny Happy People, Texarkana was probably my favorite song on the album. So that was the first album that I ever bought. But I bought a CD. I actually bought a cassette. I bought the REM cassette. The first CD I ever bought, I don't remember that. Did you burn it for me? Would you have burned it for me?
I mean, you would have given me $5, sure.
Is that what you were charging back then?
Well, single rate.
You know
was,
what's funny?
Single rate was $5. 2 CDs was 8.
That's good. Speaking of the blank CD, you ever notice back here? I have a whole pile of blank CDs.
A stack of them. Yeah.
You ever see that?
Yeah.
Some intern years ago. I mean, it had to be 15 years ago, maybe.
At least a decade, probably.
Gave me those as like a thank you. Now, I'm not ripping it was actually a female intern. And she gave me this, like, hey, thank you. You were very helpful. You were very nice. I said, oh, thank you very much. And I put them there, and they've never moved. Now, I'm thinking to myself, this is an intern, very young, coming out of college. Don't you understand that the CD is now obsolete? What am I supposed to do with all these blank CDs?
Well, listen, maybe they thought that, you were someone who stored, like, for a while.
They thought things. I was old and that I still used the CD.
Certainly possible.
Now, let me ask you a question. Do you want to bring back your business and burn CDs for people?
Depends how much people paid for it. I'm sure there's a way I could revive that. In decent order.
Mike, Ames, then Jamesway, then Bradley's. No. Bradley's and Jamesway were competitors. They weren't the same thing. Because there was a Jamesway in Northfield. There was a Bradley's in Ventnor Heights.
Mm-hmm.
In Ventnor Heights, there was a Bradley's right where it was ShopRite. I think it's an Acme now. It might be a Pathmark. What's the grocery store in Ventnor Heights now? I think it's a Pathmark.
I thought it was Pathmark.
It was an Acme, but I think it changed to Pathmark. I could be wrong. It might still be an Acme.
A bunch of the Acmes have all changed. Like the Acme, there used to be only one Acme in Ocean City. Now there's 2 Acmes in Ocean City because it used to be Super Fresh.
Super Fresh
was everywhere.
Is done.
Apparently, they're going away. Or they were bought out.
Whatever is in Ventnor Heights right now, it's either a Pathmark or an Acme. But right next to it was the Bradley's.
Okay.
Now, some years after Bradley's closed, it was a Peebles.
Wow.
It wasn't Peebles very long. I think Peebles got there was a Peebles down in like Rio Grande or something, isn't there?
Well, there used to be.
That's out of business?
I think it's a Marshall's now.
Really?
There's a Marshall's down in Courthouse now.
Yeah, but the Peebles was on like one of the causeways.
Which one? You gotta be a little more
I think it was going into Sea Isle.
Well, it couldn't have been Sea Isle. Maybe Stern Harbor.
I don't know. People listening know what I'm talking about. There was a Peebles. It wasn't on like Route 9. It was on one of the causeways. There's a McDonald's right there.
Okay, well, there's a McDonald's at Courthouse.
Yeah.
There's a McDonald's in Seaville, which you haven't been to in a while.
Seaville Tavern.
Seaville Tavern is nearby, yes.
Like Chico DeBarge gets arrested a lot. That's funny. He apparently does. 609-403-0973. Man, I think the first album I bought was Meatloaf, The Value Bin at Bradley's, Tim from Millville. It was a tape. See, there's another Bradley's reference there.
Yeah.
Was there a Bradley's in Millville? I would imagine.
Oh, I would assume there was. I mean, everything's been in Millville at this point.
Greg from LBI picked up Pink Floyd on vinyl, The Wall. Now, wasn't The Wall a double disc set?
That's a good question.
Like when it was a double disc, like for instance, let's go some more modern times. and I say modern, I'm going to go to the 90s because that's my reference point. The Smashing Pumpkins, right? They had what was the name of that double disc album for them?
Pink Floyd came in double vinyl and double CD.
So what was the double vinyl? Was it two records? Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness. That was the double disc for the Smashing Pumpkins. And you got two physical discs.
Yeah, it's two literal vinyls.
So did you get two physical albums there, Greg and LBI?
Greg was it, with two G's, by the way. Or was the album so long that it's like part 1 and part 2? That's my question.
The Who's Next? That's a great album. Steely Dan, that's another good album. That's from Dana in Ocean City. Says she bought it on vinyl. Kiss album, Say Time, 76 in high school. Now, the Steely Dan is a underrated album too. No, these are on vinyl though. I didn't have to go through the vinyl. I know it sounds better, but it just here's another Steely Dan, by the way. This is from I was 12. Can't Buy a Thrill vinyl from W.T. Grant's department store in Turnersville, New Jersey in 1972.
That's a little before my time.
I was 12. Jeez.
Well, the guy just gave away his age.
Steely Dan, though, with 2 votes on the Peebles is in Seaville. Thank you. Was. Is it still there? You said was.
I'm pretty sure it's not there anymore. I think it's a Big Lots now.
Really?
Let me double check. I mean, the last time I was over there, I was actually looking for Mamma Mia's. It's not there anymore.
Mike, Peebles was by the Planet Fitness, which was a Macy's. I don't know where you're talking about there. Macy's. There's only one Macy's in this area. It's out of Mays Landing in the mall.
The Peebles is permanently closed. According to a lot of different websites.
I know the one in Ventnor didn't last long. I want to say the Ventnor one was a Sandy, got destroyed in Sandy and never reopened afterwards. I that's my recollection. I could be completely off on that. But I think like the Peebles, I went in the Peebles in Ventnor Heights one time and I looked around and I was like, oh my God, this is not going to make it. Like I was the only person in there for probably the 45 minutes that I was in that store.
That's too funny.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you put a department store in Ventnor Heights. I mean, how many people live in Ventnor Heights? Like 40? Actually, a lot of people live in Ventnor Heights. I take that back. 609-403-0973. Why does Josh know where every fast food place is? It's a good question.
I know where a lot of places to eat are in general.
In general. Okay. That's a general statement.
Listen, if you go to 973ESPN.com, I was the guy who wrote the best places to watch, bars to watch football in Cape May, Atlantic County.
That's right.
So,
did you get any complaints on that?
I didn't get any complaints, surprisingly. I was actually kind of disappointed.
Well, I saw some people. No, you got some complaints, but they were off basis complaints. Like, you didn't include this place, and that place would be in Cape May County, and the title of the article is the best places in Atlantic County.
Right.
Mike, Pink Floyd The Wall 8-track. I'm 50, and my dad had an 8-track player in his car. I can't imagine the cars with an 8-track in them. Like, can you imagine fiddling around with an 8-track? Like, when I first got into radio, we had to use carts. We had a cart machine to play the commercials. You remember that? You're probably too young for that.
But no, I'm finding plenty of pictures of Peebles with closing sale or we're out of business online.
Yeah, I'm getting a lot of Peebles text messages here. Peebles closed. Mamma Mia's in Marmora near ShopRite.
Now it's near ShopRite. It moved from Marmora. It moved to Marmora from Seaville.
What, the Peebles?
No, the Mamma Mia's.
Oh. Mike, it's in Rio Grande. All right, now we got a little fight going on. Is it in Marmora?
There was a Peebles in Rio Grande, and it may still be there for all
This guy bought the Talking Heads 1970 in Talking Heads 77 on cassette. That's a goodie.
Wow. Now the Rio Grande, that would have been on the Rio Grande Causeway in the Wildwood.
No, it wasn't that far down.
So you're probably thinking like Seaville, Courthouse.
I want to say there's a CVS across the street and a gas station on the corner.
Now you know about Cape Courthouse, it sounds like.
Right there's a
24-hour CVS pharmacy in Courthouse. And there's a gas station near
all
McDonald's.
Our friends in Cape May County are excited right now because There's like 5 people that live down there, and they all live right at this point that I'm talking
Well, this
about.
is where my high school was. I went to K-May Tech, remember?
I don't know where Cape May Tech is.
K-May Tech is right off the parkway.
Oh, yeah, I do. No, see, I don't like I want to say like there's a gas station there, and then the CVS is on that side, and then across the street there's a McDonald's, and then all the way back there's like a shopping plaza, and that's where the People's was. It's a very poorly engineered exit there too.
Well, that sounds like the old courthouse setup.
Yeah, I want to say it's like Seville. What's that causeway from Seville across?
Route 50.
I want to say it's
the Parkway exit. I want to say it's 20. If you're going north, it spits you right on the 50, or you make a right, and there's a CVS, a gas station. Cross the street is McDonald's, and that shopping plaza, the Acme, has been there forever. Where Jamesway used to be.
In the People's?
Where the People's is now is where the Jamesway used to be.
I thought People's was closed.
Well, it's closed now, but it's still apparently there's a
gotcha.
still says
Yeah, see, where the People's was in Ventnor Heights, that was the Bradleys.
Okay.
But I don't think it was the full Bradleys. I think they cut it in half. There's like an auto zone there now.
It looks like where the People's used to be in Rio Grande is where the Xfinity store is now.
That's pretty big for an Xfinity store.
So
Mike,
weird.
the People's in Ventnor Heights did more online sales than anything else. I used to be their delivery driver, and they were my pickup.
Wow.
Now, that's inside information right there.
That's an interesting story.
Mike, there was a People's in Seville and Rio Grande at the same time.
Yes. They came after Jamesway.
Mike, you are 100% talking about Seville. All right. Well, now that I know that there was 2 People's down there,
yeah,
who would have known?
People's in Rio Grande and People's in Seville.
You go to People's, you're getting like, they're specializing in like Izod.
Yes.
You know, like Polo Club. Not like Ralph Lauren Polo, the horse with the guy who's like, you know, Polo Club.
Yeah, the guy with the Polo Club literally in his hand.
Yeah. Like they would be the level of brand that you're getting at.
Yeah, you know, you also might find like you're like, you know, back in the early 2000s, your Christina Aguilera collection.
That's a little off my. I'm not quite on that side of the shopping aisle. But you would get like, an Izod.
Yeah, well, one of my other side gigs was I was the guy who drove everybody everywhere. They gave me gas money.
Gotcha. Gas money now. Sports Bash is
all about
live.
the hustle, man.
Hey, everybody, you've got great albums have been coming in. Your first album that you ever bought, album, tape, or CD. First one you ever bought. Text me, 609-403-0973. All right, when we come back, I got more. I want to get into this Jalen Hurts thing. Also, what else is on my rundown sheet that I haven't hit yet today? Ben Simmons was fined again. You can go to our website for more details, 973ESPN.com. Also, is this the week the Eagles enter my Who's In, Who's Out today at 4:25? All right, 250 Sports Bash, Bob in Egg Harbor City. First cassette ever bought, Nazareth, Hair of the Dog. There's a goodie there for you. That's not up my speed right there, Bob in Egg Harbor City. But I would imagine that's not a bad one to get the night started and keep on going. Nazareth, Hair of the Dog. Good album there. Thanks for sharing all these albums, by the way. Here's one for you, Josh. Chocolate Starfish and the Hot Dog Flavored Water by Limp Bizkit. That wasn't their best effort.
No, it wasn't, but that was freshman year of high school.
John from Collingswood. Hey, Mike, I bought the Eagles' greatest hits record album, 1978, my very first. So we're going back to the 70s now. 78. Like, I bought the
that's a strong pull, though.
Yeah, that's a good one there. They were talking about the Eagles for some reason, the band. Oh, because Nick Saban apparently went to college with the lead singer, him and they were talking about this today on Greeny, I think, that him, Saban, and Belichick went to an Eagles concert together because Saban was roommates with the singer or something from the Eagles.
Interesting.
Got all that?
Got it.
Yeah. A couple more that have been coming in. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. Keep them coming, 609-403. Robin Millville, Rod Stewart, Every Picture Tells a Story. Vinyl, 1972.
Very specific.
I like a good Rod Stewart album. You can go through the whole thing there. Let me get my man Glenn EHT. What's going on, Glenn?
Yo, Mike, how you feel?
Everything's good.
Good. Yeah, we were talking about the way people communicate now in general. I mean, yeah, everybody's pushing buttons and nobody's really talking. That's why I like, personally, I'm an old school guy like that, especially when it comes to sports radio.
Yeah.
I like the back and forth. You know what I mean? I mean, for you to read my text, talk about it later, I don't know. It's just not as interesting to me. Not that I don't do it. I'd rather get the back and forth when it comes to the talk radio. Even when I'm talking to my friends in general about sports, I like the back and forth, and that's where I'm an old school guy when it comes to that.
I agree with you. Like I prefer to have back and forth conversation. It's just that's not the way of the world anymore, right? I mean, most people are just text, back and forth. That's why I said, like, when somebody actually calls you on my phone, I'm like, what the hell do they want?
Yeah, it's definitely it's definitely done on a minimal basis. But when it comes to talk radio, I think it's more entertaining back and forth,
Sometimes, maybe with someone like you.
Oh, well, I appreciate that, man. Have a good day, Mike. All right, now.
Take care, Glenn. I mean, yeah, there are some people that you can have good back and forth with. Not everybody.
Well, but part of the problem is the reason why people can't make phone calls is because they don't know how to communicate. People can't hold conversations as well anymore. So you could have a bunch of people call into a show, but I can't promise you that everyone is going to be Glenn and EHT bringing something.
Well, there's
to the
a lot
table.
of people listening that are saying that they don't want to hear Glenn and EHT.
Well, that's true as well.
Right?
So,
Even though I enjoy talking to Glenn and EHT.
It's a catch-22.
A lot of tweets at Mike Gill Show. Mike, Purple Rain. What year would that have been? Like 83?
I was going to say, that's got to be like 83, right?
There's a Garth Brooks. What the heck's the name of that Garth Brooks album? I do remember that one because I was in West Virginia at the time. That was pretty big down there. Rush Moving Pictures. That's from Charles Smith. Mark tweets at me, Styx, Paradise Theater, the LP. Wow.
Purple Rain was 84, by the way.
I was off by a year on
One
that.
year, only 1 year.
Going Styx. It's Mark Melhorn over at the Press. People tweeting at me here. Dave De Palma tweeting at me. I'm older than Pete. Allman Brothers, Sisters cassette, Led Zeppelin 2, first album. Some goodies. Allman Brothers, like I could listen to an Allman Brothers, but I'm not buying the album.
Zeppelin's more my speed.
Yeah, I had a Zeppelin album when I was in high school. There's a lot of goodies here, by the way. So if you want to keep them coming, 609-403-0973. Hey, don't forget, next Wednesday, we are out at Vagabond Kitchen and Tap House in Egg Harbor Township for 99 bottles. And if you want to be there, now's your chance. And there you go. It's your chance right now to qualify for 99 bottles. 609-573-3776. First three in, you are going to be there with a chance to win Eagles club box seats, Flyers tickets, Sixers tickets, and so much more. You must be present to win. Vagabond Kitchen and Tap House, Egg Harbor Township. Good luck, and we'll see you there on Wednesday. All right, after 3, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. A lot of people texting in telling us what they have, what their first album was that they ever bought. That's the topic of conversation that we had today. Start the show off. We got a lot of other stuff on the docket today if you want to jump on board. Sports Bash is live, 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. Jeff Nadeau's here. We're going to hash up. I got a couple questions, as I typically do, that I want to pick his brain on and just kind of go back and forth and see what he thinks. I had a couple of things that I was having a conversation earlier today, and I'll bring him into that here. Jeff Nadeau here on the Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. Jeff Nadeau, what's the first album, CD, tape you ever bought?
Probably The Truth, Beanie Siegel.
Oh, there you go. Now, is that on a CD?
Or no, it might have even been, that was a CD, I believe. I did buy a CD called NYC Underground Volume 3. It came out in, I think, the late 90s. It was by a guy, Louis DeVito. He was a New York City DJ, and I used to love, when I was a kid, I loved, like, techno. I still do, to be honest, but I had a full eclectic musical taste. Mike, you see I got hit today, right? You see that right there?
What? No, I can't tell. We got a little black and blue.
Yeah, I got hit with a straight jab to the face today. So,
I saw a couple of workout jabs, like working the heavy bag there.
Well, that was blown out of proportion. I was just screwing around at the end of a workout. I wasn't even hitting it too hard, but everybody's Teddy Atlas on Twitter. So
I wasn't judging your skill set. I just saw that you were in front of a heavy bag.
Yeah, that's about all I'm going to show. So.
Ooh, okay. All right. Well, the big fight's coming up. Well, you're less than a month now. Inside a month.
Here we are. Yeah, about 3
What
weeks.
is the trade? What do you, when you get up early? You doing that before, after? What's your
So I go at 11 every morning. So I do it 4 days a week, and then the other 3 I'm doing my own cardio at home. I run generally a mile a day, mile and a half. I do push-ups. I run little sprints, suicides, that kind of thing. My cardio is pretty good at this point. I'm not real worried about that. It's really just the gym's all about we're really focused on my footwork. I'm literally from today, and last week on until the fight, it's all about the footwork. The power and the punches, like it's only 3 minutes. I can throw punches. It's just making sure I don't get hit and making sure my footwork's correct, not tripping over myself.
What is that, December the 10th, Rough and Rowdy?
That is correct.
All right. December 10th, Rough and Rowdy, Jeff Nadeau. Who's the guy? What's this gentleman's name? I say gentleman. Is he a gentleman? I don't know.
Name is Jersey Jerry.
Jersey Jerry in one corner. What is this? Is this like a pay-per-view at night? I'm not very familiar with this Rough and Rowdy format.
It's a
I'm sorry.
event. You can buy it, buyrnr.com, and you'll be able to. There's actually 20 fights that night. We're the last fight. So
this is the main event.
Yeah. Yep. There's some guys fighting. A guy that he's undefeated. I think he's 6-0. He's fighting. I think there's 2 chicks fighting. They both are doing really well. So there's a lot of fights. Anybody can fight in this, Mike. So. You live down in Charleston, you think you can fight, you get in there and you can fight. So, ours is a little bit more in depth, but it'll be fun. I'm actually going to be trained that night. One of my trainers is going to be a real fighter. My guy, Sonny Conto, he's actually fighting this Thursday in Philly. So he'll be down there with me. And we're really excited about it.
Well, we'll be certainly keeping our eye on that. I know a lot of people ask me about it. I say, honestly, I don't have a lot of information to give you. It's something that I wasn't really aware of this Rough and Rowdy series. Am I out on that? Like, am I like under a rock?
No, I wouldn't say
it's been going on for a while.
It's definitely getting bigger and bigger. They've had Jose Canseco fight. The last fight was Pac-Man Jones. He fought the old cowboy and Bengal.
West Virginia.
Yeah, it was. He actually walked out to Country Roads, Take Me Home. So
you picked your song now, right? Oh, the last time we talked last week, I sent you the West Virginia techno version.
I actually liked it. I actually like that artist, Pretty Lights. He's a good DJ actually. But he actually walked out to Country Roads and he actually lost. He lost a split decision. But listen, Mike, I'm excited. I think I'm going to surprise a lot of people. So get ready and get excited.
All right, Jeff Nadeau's with us. All right, we talk a lot about betting here with Jeff. He's a sports bettor, content creator, and plus 260 it is right now for the Eagles to make the playoffs. You like that bet?
Yeah, it's funny. I did a Twitter Spaces last night, and I was asked like about the NFC and who's going to make the the playoffs and who are some of the wild card teams. And you look at the NFC. I mean, there's not a lot as far as wild cards to be real excited about, is there? I mean, when you look at the NFC,
I've been saying this for weeks. People, I get the Jim Moore senior gif all the time.
Yeah, well, I mean,
playoffs, I get that sent to me. I said, look, I'm not telling you I think the Eagles are good. I'm just saying 5, 6, 5's going to be pretty good. It'll be the Rams or Arizona.
But 6, it's like when you look at the rest of the conference. So like the Vikings do nothing for me. The Bears, I mean, give me a break. The Saints, I mean, Trevor Siemian, give me a break. I think the Eagles are better than the Falcons and the Panthers. Beat both those teams. What'd you say the number was?
Plus 260.
If they win this week, it really comes down. This is an important game this week. If you win this game, you're in the driver's seat, right? Because you have the rest of the season is layups really outside of Dallas, and that's a game that I think you have a shot in just because they've already beat you. They generally find a way to beat them once. So yeah, this is a huge game because if they win this week, Mike, I think that's cut in half probably, or at least out of like 180, 200. So
well, right, like if they win this week, they would have beaten the Saints and the Falcons and Carolina.
Yeah.
That's 3 teams that are in front of them.
Yeah.
Carolina has the most difficult schedule left of all the teams in the NFL. So they're going to have a tough go at it here. And the Eagles have the – I mean, it's odd, though. And I know, Jeff, you're kind of in this boat sometimes. I don't know where you stand on this now. But you mentioned playoffs, the Eagles fans, and they don't want to make the playoffs. They want the pick, but you're going to have 3 picks. What's the difference? This isn't the NBA. You don't have to be in the damn lottery.
Well, that's why this year I'm a little bit more interested just because they have other picks that Miami pick is going to be how bad Miami is, right? They're still going to have 3 picks. It's just the one pick that they actually have that's their pick. It could depend on how good they finish. But, Mike, I've always been in the camp. The Sixers were in these they were in these levels.
I have no problem with the NBA, Bala. In the NBA, I would advocate doing what the Sixers did. In the NFL, picked 12 and 19, half a dozen one or the other.
What I've learned about the Eagles, Mike, and I it's fascinating because there are weeks where, I get so frustrated with them. But then I look at it and I say, well, it's a shame Nick Sirianni didn't run the ball earlier because – I feel like they could have really beaten the Chiefs. I think they could have beaten
San Fran.
Team. Yeah, San Fran. That Charger game. I mean, they've been really close. And what that tells me, Mike, is they can play with anybody.
I agree, Jeff. And I've been saying this all year. It's because their offensive line is good.
Exactly.
When you have a good offensive line, you can compete. And they have a competitive offensive line, so their offense should keep them in the games. If Sirianni does what the line does well, which is run, he has grown into a much better play caller now, and now it's up to the defense. The rest of the way, though, as we've seen, when they play average to bad teams, the defense has been okay. They only give up 10 points a game when they win.
Yeah,
I don't know. I can't explain it.
And look, I'll be honest. I think Denver's actually they have a stable quarterback now. They have a good run game. Jerry Jeudy's a good receiver. They got some playmakers. Yeah, that's not easy to go out there and win. Didinger talked about that on the post-game show about how it's not easy. However Denver's playing that year, it's always tough to go out there and win a game.
The Eagles hadn't won out there since 98.
Yeah, and they went out there and won handily. So, they're not that far off. And I guess I think we've just been tailored for so many years.
All right, you want me to tell you the real answer here, Jeff?
Well, we hate that stupid sticks defense. That's
no. See, you just said it. We're not that far off.
No,
and this is people don't want to make an admission that the team is more talented than they want to give them credit for because then they have to give credit to Roseman.
I fully will give them credit. I think they have major issues, and I only wish they would have been more serious about linebackers and maybe have another pass rusher because, I don't think they're that far away, but I also don't trust him to go out and address it. But we'll see.
Yeah. Well, a lot of the guys that they got here, the kid Dickerson, he can play, right? Yeah. Smith, he can play. Goddard, he can play. Mm-hmm. The 2 receivers, Watkins and Rieger, I don't think. I mean, Watkins is a gadget player.
Yeah, I like him.
Rieger, I think, is a lost cause. But the offensive line, Herbie can play. Driscoll can play. Mailata can play. So they've done a good job at kind of restocking the line right before our very eyes.
So
those guys getting hurt last year actually helped this team evolve faster because Driscoll and Herbig had to play last year.
So let me ask you. I mean, if we're week 11, you're pretty much sure that Hurts is going to be back next year, especially if they go to the playoff. I mean, if he goes to the playoff,
here was my question I was going to ask you, and I want you to ask me this question. Go ahead, ask that question.
I mean, is he the guy?
Well, Sirianni said yesterday, he was asked, hey, what are you telling people that say, do you have your guy? He said, watch the last 3 weeks. So,
Mike, I'll tell you this. And again, I don't think this guy has, they're not glaring issues, Mike. He misses occasional receivers, but Donovan McNabb did that a lot as well.
It's funny you say that because my question right here is, what if Hurts is Donovan McNabb?
I think that'd be a huge ceiling. I had thought, maybe he was Tyrod Taylor, but I'm guessing and I'm noticing that when he can run, him running, I mean, he's better than McNabb, I think. I mean, he's
more accurate.
Oh yeah. And again, this is what is he played 12 games in the NFL?
Look at this preparation I have, Jeff Nadeau. I knew you were going to walk me right into this.
That's good stuff.
McNabb and Hurts, their first 14 games.
Yeah, it's blowing him out of the water.
Hurts 59%, McNabb 57%. That needs to go up in today's days. They both have 18 touchdowns. McNabb 13 interceptions. Hurts 8 interceptions. McNabb 5.5 yards an attempt. Hurts 7.2. McNabb 171 yards a game. Hurts 220. 87 passer rating. Hurts 73 passer rating. McNabb 500 rushing yards. McNabb 800 rushing yards. Hurts has been the better player.
No, he is. And in this day and age, that completion percentage next year will be 60% because here's what, Mike, you do. You have to go out and get a veteran receiver on this team. If you can get a veteran receiver to plug along the other side with Devontae Smith, you've got Goddard, you got a little run. Mike, let me ask you. Tell me you're not happy with Boston Scott, Jordan Howard, Kenny Gainwell. I'm good with that. I don't need
I did a show a couple of weeks ago on a Friday that said when they play Boston Scott in their past, they have won. The Howard-Scott duo, for me, is fine. I don't know what they're going to do when Sanders comes back. I will say this, though, Jeff. If they commit to run the ball like they have with Sanders, he's way more explosive. You might see some 60-yard, 70-yard runs with him.
The problem is he will not run straight. It always is running side to side, and you can't do that. And look, Mike, I'm starting to be, Sunday I'm going to the game. I'm excited, but they don't win at home. We need a home win, for God's sake.
That's the good. The good part is they've won 4 road games. They have to start winning at home. So they would start to say they've played at home, Kansas City, Tampa Bay, the Chargers, and San Francisco. I don't know that anybody thought they were supposed to win any of those 4 games.
No. You only wish what could have been with them.
I agree. No, San Francisco looked good last night, but that was a 17-11 game, and I thought Sirianni was dog due on that day. He had a horrible game plan.
Yeah.
You give up 17 points at home, you got to win.
I thought this week, though, I mean, the secondary was good. I'll tell you what, I knocked this kid, but, I'm starting to really like this secondary. I mean that. I like Slay and Nelson. Nelson's all right, whatever.
Yeah, Nelson's a pro.
I like the safeties. Kid I like, I'm starting to really find it. I feel like every time he's around, that Marcus Epps, he's a decent player, I feel like. He kind of, he occasionally get burned, but, he hits the quarterback. He's a good tackler. Yeah, I like Avonte Maddox. I'm starting to come around on Davion Taylor. He seems to be around the ball a lot. Good tackler. These are all guys that Roseman drafted. You can't like these guys. Well, they need Brandon Graham. I wish they had Brandon Graham. But
I agree with you.
Barnett's got to go. Cut him loose. How long? At what point is he going to lose you a game and you say it's always him?
It's already happened. What do you mean? At what point is he going to lose your game? He's done it twice. The game against the Chargers and the game against San Francisco. He got bonehead penalties in both of them.
You keep letting this happen, Mike. It's going to really come back and bite you at some point.
Well, I'm an advocate of using the 3 picks and just getting the best defensive player available at all 3 spots. That's what I'm going right now. I don't take a quarterback. I let Hurts go again, and I take 3 defensive players, the best 3 I can get at whatever. Miami, hopefully you're in the top 5. Indianapolis, hopefully you're in the top 15. And your own, if you make the playoffs, you'll be around, 19, somewhere around there. If you're not in the playoffs, you're probably around 15. So
Yeah,
3 top 20 picks for me. That could turn this defense around pretty quickly.
Agreed.
Yeah. All right, Jeff Nadeau. We got what else is on my list of things today? Here we go. I gave you the 260 Eagles making the playoffs. That's a pretty good bet right now. We got the Hurts McNabb stuff. Oh, we got college basketball. We got college football. We got the NFL. You're out on the NFL, so I'm out. You're out on that. What's sticking out to you early in the week so far?
Well, I wouldn't say I'm out in the NFL. I'm just focusing on things that I've done well in, and that's been college football. Are you asking me what sticks out? Oh, tonight I like Toledo. I played Toledo at 6.5. I gotta be honest. I kind of like this one up to 8.5. I think they win by 10, double digits. I think they're a really good defense. They've been on Toledo.
That's in college football, Mac.
Yep, Mac. Yep. Good defense. I like what they've done on that side of the ball. The quarterback's really starting to come around. He kind of reminds me of a young Michael Vick. I love watching this kid play. Daquan Finn. Ohio's season's over. They're not going to a bowl. They've got 2 games left, and they only have 3 wins. Toledo ball eligible to win. I think they get a big double-digit victory tonight.
All right, that's up to 7.5 on DraftKings. You can get it at 7 on BetMGM. So it is moving up towards that direction. And what'd you say? You go up to 8.5?
Yeah, I'll be good with that.
All right. So there's your college football tonight. Got the action and the college basketball. Got anything college basketball going?
It's a pretty good card, Mike. I've been keeping the units low. It's an early start to the season. You don't want to get crazy. Tonight, I will say, this Brigham Young Oregon game is going to be great. BYU Oregon should be a great defensive battle, but I like BYU. Can really shoot the basketball. Been good in the half court. I also like Seton Hall, Michigan. That should be a great game. I'm wondering if Seton Hall can hang around. I have a feeling Michigan is just too good. You look at Seton Hall; they've really overindulged defensively. I think opponents are shooting like 11% from 3 against them to start the season. That's going to even out against Michigan. Michigan's going to hit some shots that those opponents weren't. I got a weird feeling Kevin Willard's going to have them get blown out tonight. I'm kind of liking Seton Hall to get crushed. I think Michigan gets the job done here.
1988, 89, Andrew Gaze, Seton Hall, Michigan.
I was born in 89, Mike.
That was the final game. Seton Hall, Michigan, in the final game of the NCAA tournament. Andrew Gaze, Seton Hall. There you go. All right, Jeff Nadeau's back on Thursday. We'll take a look at some of the weekend plays. And, all right, Eagles coming around, plus 260. I think you should hit that.
Yeah.
You like the sit-down logo, by the way.
Oh, I do. Yeah, that's great. I love that. Mike, I have a great show this week. A lot of people ask me, is the mob still around? The answer is yes, definitively. And we are talking about the most powerful person in the United States in the current mob this week on the show. Definitely one you want to take a look at.
It's called The Sit Down. He's Jeff Nadeau. He's your host. He'll be back on Thursday. We'll talk a little bit more about the weekend card. All right, good conversation today. Don't give up on Howie Roseman just yet.
I won't, Mike. Thank you, buddy.
Take care, man. All right, Jeff Nadeau. I kid. I only say this because I know, people accuse me of like, hey, you're a Howie guy. No, I'm not a Howie guy. He won a Super Bowl. And I think this team is a lot further along than people give them credit for. And they're starting to kind of find some guys, including Landon Dickerson. Check out my piece on Landon Dickerson. He's showing why the Eagles took him in the second round. Go to 973ESPN.com for more. A lot of people still texting, hit me up on the mobile app. When we come back, Ben Simmons fined again. The latest here on the Sports Bash. Michael Kasky-Blomain joins me here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. By the way, Josh, we got qualifiers. Who do we got?
We got Todd in EHT.
All right, my man Todd.
Tom in Marmora.
Tom in Marmora. Looks like the theme of this hour was the tea.
And Kevin in Galloway.
Kevin, you ruined it. Kevin, Todd, and Tom, we'll see you guys at Vagabond Kitchen and Tap House for 99 bottles. We'll have another chance for you to enter coming up at 4:55 today. We're running out of spots for you guys. Make sure you get in at 4:55 today. 3 more chances to qualify. And then next Wednesday, we'll be live. Vagabond Kitchen Tap House EHC. You're all invited, but only 99 of you will win a pair of tickets to something. We've got tickets to great events all over South Jersey and Philadelphia. And it's only right here on the Sports Bash. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. I'm Mike Gill. What's up, everybody? Josh Henning producing today's show. You out there. We've got Michael Kasky-Blomain talk a little Sixers with us now. We'll ask MKB, too, his first out. Now, MKB, I don't have an answer for what he might go with here. What his first album record CD. I think he's in his, early 30s. So I would, I don't know. We'll see. I just saw someone give me Mace from, what was that, 94? Michael Kasky-Blomain here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. What's going on, Michael?
What's up, Gill? How you doing, man?
It's the first album you ever bought.
So I was thinking about it on the lead-in. I don't know for an absolute fact, but I think it was the original Space Jam soundtrack.
Wow, a little Space Jam. So you went with a movie, what a soundtrack.
Yeah, that had some jams on there. It had Busta Rhymes, Coolio, Quad City D.
Oh, we lost Michael Kasky. Oh, there he is. Mike, you there? You got me?
Yeah,
oh, man. We lost you for a second. That's a good one. What year is that? What year's Space Jam? 98?
I want to say 96. I was
96?
9. I was 9 in 96.
How about it?
All right. Yeah, I think that was it. That's my final choice, I think.
All right. We've been getting some good ones today. There's people. I got a very diverse crowd out there, man. Very diverse crowd listening to today's show. MKB, Ben Simmons fined again. He did not go on the road trip here, which we didn't think he would. Is this a big deal? What's the messaging here? Is this just another in the long line of a head-scratching situation?
Yeah, I think this is the latest back and forth. Mike, Ben, doing what he wants to do. The Sixers want him to be there. He's not there, and they're just going to continue hitting him with fines until they get on the same page, which obviously hasn't happened yet.
Last Friday, we started the show off talking about Rich Paul and how bad he's handled this. In my opinion, do you agree that he has handled this poorly? Do you think he's done a good job with this? How are you kind of reading the room with how Rich Paul has handled this?
Yeah, I think he's handled it pretty poorly, Mike, because I don't think that Ben's reputation can ever fully recover from this situation, which is not ideal for a young player like Ben moving forward. Not to say that he's not going to find success in the NBA or going to continue being an all-star either, elsewhere probably. But the way he's handled himself over these past few months, the way he, performed in the playoffs and then didn't, try to improve upon himself, but instead kind of flipped it, pointed the finger at the Sixers, and has thrown an extended, tantrum, for lack of a better word, since then. To me, it seems just to be bad advice from representation. It seems like they overplayed their hand almost. It seemed like, heading into the season, I think Rich Paul and Ben and the team thought, if we do this, the Sixers aren't going to want to put up with it. They're going to make a trade as soon as possible. And that's backfired pretty spectacularly now, to the point that, Ben's losing out on money that I don't think he expected to lose out on. He had to, go with the mental health excuse or issue, which is something that, it's not easy to turn the page on if you come out publicly and say you have mental health issues and you need to deal with it. It's something that, future teams are going to want to be interested in. It's something that's going to follow you throughout your career. So to me, it's a pretty classic case of mismanagement and kind of overplaying their hand that they, I think they thought they had more leverage in the situation than they actually did.
Now, what do you say? Some of the people who out there will say, well, look, the agent works for Ben. Ben tells him what to say or do. Do you buy that this is Ben Simmons' message, or do you think this is the agent advising him and telling Ben how to approach this?
Yeah, I think it's definitely a combination of the two, Mike. Obviously, Ben is the one that didn't want to be in Philly, that wanted to trade, and he used, Rich as the in-between between him and the Sixers. But this is, Rich Paul has a history of this. He's done it with Anthony Davis. He's had issues with clients in the past. He's getting sued by Nerlens Noel for not, properly representing him in his free agency talks a couple years ago. He just seems to be a guy that he's really concerned with his top guys and getting them paid and getting them forward. But overall, I think there's some aspects of the agent, industry that maybe he's not completely great at or well versed at this point. So I think it's,
amen.
It's definitely Ben's, his doing and pulling the strings, but I think some of the advice he's gotten has been from the agency side, and I don't think it's been great.
Well, obviously he has LeBron James, so he's got the highest of high profiles. He's got Anthony Davis. He's got some very, very high profile guys. But I said on Friday, Michael, to me, he's in over his skis here, man. He is completely bungled the agent part. He might be a great marketing guy, and I give him all the credit in the world for building Clutch Sports to the brand that it has. He might be a great branding guy, a great marketing guy. But the agent aspect if he was representing me, I would be pissed right now the way he's handled this thing. Now, some people would say, well, Ben works, he works for Ben. Ben's telling him to say this, but I mean, the agent portion of this, outside of him having such high profile guys, does it look good for him to have two of his players going through this right now?
No, not at all, Mike. And I think you hit the nail on the head. I'm not trying to take any credit away from Rich Paul and what he's built in the industry, but he got a huge leg up by being LeBron James' right-hand man and his best friend. LeBron established himself, put Rich Paul on, got himself to be Rich Paul's biggest client. And, having LeBron in his corner is the reason that he is where he is. And I think that allowed him to become a mega agent and kind of skip some of the steps that, some of the other professional agents that have been in the industry for 10, 15, 20 years kind of learned through lessons and building themselves up. Rich kind of got to skip those steps and become this super agent at a young age because of the fact that he had LeBron in his corner. And like you said, I think some of the parts of the actual being an agent, he's not that well polished at. He's not that great at. I think a better agent would have told Ben from the beginning that, like, listen, we'll work as hard as we can to get you out of Philadelphia. But this approach of staying away, saying you have a back injury, saying you have mental health, going to practice, getting kicked out, pointing the finger at everybody else but yourself, not looking in the mirror after how poorly you performed. I think a better agent would have told Ben to approach this differently. That isn't the case, and now we are where we are.
Yeah. Michael Caskey-Blumain, CBS Sports, covers the NBA and the Sixers. So the whole situation with Rich Paul and the way the information's Shams, do you think they're the fact that it's almost as if he's telling Shams, hey, I need you to get this out for me, that whole dynamic there. Do you find that to be an odd part of this whole situation too?
I really do. And Kyle Neubeck from Philly Voice wrote a really good article on this morning on the situation, I think, because Rich Paul has came out recently, obviously last week, and said that he thinks that, the back and forth has not been good for Ben's mental health, the fines, the public negativity. But to me, this whole time, if you're reading the tea leaves, he's the one that's leaking this information to Shams.
Exactly.
He's the one that's running to Shams every time to say, report that the Sixers are doing this, report that the Sixers are doing that. And it just seems to be, contradictory kind of to what he's saying. Like I said, Kyle wrote a great column about that. But he, to me, he's talking out of both sides of his mouth almost. He wants to say that, Ben's a victim here, but at the same time, he's not doing Ben any help by constantly, leaking all of this to Shams. It's not Daryl Morey that's calling up Shams Charania and saying, hey, we're fining Ben Simmons for this. That's not how this is working. This is coming from the agency side of things. So if he truly thinks it's harming Ben's mental health, he should look in the mirror in this situation also. At least that's how I view it.
Yeah, and keep in mind, too, this is an interesting spot that Maxi's in as well, and Paul benefits from that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a strange situation for the Sixers to have a client, of Rich Paul that's on the team that's now filled in for Ben Simmons. Obviously, there was the report over the summer that turned out to not be true, that Rich was going to pull, Tyrese from the Sixers as well, and didn't want him to be there either, which obviously wouldn't have made any sense given the opportunity that's in front of him with Ben gone. But yeah, there definitely has to be a little bit of awkwardness behind the scenes now with Maxey kind of, rising into maybe potentially star status here, and the Sixers potentially having another star player repped by Rich Paul after, all of this has transpired. It's going to be interesting to see how that moves forward too.
Right. Obviously, I mean, to me, the way that Rich Paul and Clutch Sports have approached this the whole way is mind-boggling to me. He has made his client, I think he's made Ben Simmons look terrible in this situation. Now, Ben Simmons might be instructing him to do this. I find it hard to believe that he has told him to go down this road here. But in the end, I think Rich Paul has made Ben Simmons look terrible here.
Yeah, I agree, Mike. Absolutely. And like I alluded to before, to me, it's a situation where his reputation is taking a permanent hit by the way this is being handled, in terms of not handling it professionally, not looking in the mirror, not taking any accountability, pointing the finger everywhere but at himself. If that is coming from Rich Paul, I think he has harmed Ben's, professional reputation, in a major way.
Michael Caskey-Blumain, the Sixers struggling all of a sudden here. You could say, hey, they've been missing some guys with COVID. Is that the underlining struggle here? Is there something that stands out as to why this team all of a sudden has struggled?
I think it's just the absence of Joel, Mike. I mean, obviously they were able to win a couple games there when he was out. But the way they're constructed right now, he's so crucial to what they do on both ends of the floor, especially on the offensive end, in terms of just generating open opportunities for everyone around him. And without another guy like an all-star like Ben, who could at least create opportunities for other guys, I think you're seeing the offense struggle at times a little bit. And defensively, they don't have the anchor back there to protect the paint. So, it's an unfortunate timing with them being on this road trip and not knowing exactly when Joel's going to come back. But they got, obviously, the Jazz tonight, the Nuggets on Thursday night. I don't think Joel's going to play in either of those. So it's going to be tough for them to, get back on the winning side of things in the short term, I think.
I mean, they could realistically come off this West Coast trip and be under 500, right?
Yeah, I'm almost expecting it at this point.
Michael Kasky-Blomain, Washington, Chicago, Cleveland. Those three teams are in the top 5 right now in the playoff standings. Any lost you for 1 second there.
I'm good. I'm here.
Yeah. Washington, Chicago, Cleveland. How many of those three are legit?
I think Chicago is definitely legit. The verdict's still out for me on Washington. I think Cleveland's going to end up coming back down to earth a little bit as the season wears on. I actually I made an article for CBS yesterday of tiers in the Eastern Conference of legit contenders, threats, and playoff hopefuls. The Cavs, to me, are a team that are still a couple years away. Obviously, they should be really happy with the play of Evan Mobley and Darius Garland. But out of those teams you mentioned, to me, the Bulls look like the most realistic threat to any of the actual contenders in the East. They have, obviously, a couple of legit go-to guys on the offensive end in DeRozan, who's been playing great, and Zach LaVine. They got some good role players, obviously, Lonzo, Caruso. So, the Sixers beat them twice shorthanded. I think the Sixers are still, obviously, a better team than Chicago. But they are a team that I think could be, a legit threat to the other teams in the East come playoff time.
Right now, the NBA has 10 teams that make the playoffs, kind of. Milwaukee's 11. Atlanta is 12th. Indiana is after that. Those three teams made the playoffs last year. You feel like any of those are in trouble?
I think Indiana could be in trouble, Mike. They're a team to me that kind of is just treading water. It looks a lot like the same team that we've seen in the past. They're good enough to be in that conversation for a playoff spot, maybe even get one. But once they're there, I don't think there's, anyone's really scared that they're a team that's really going to make a run. The Bucks, to me, are fine. I wouldn't worry about them. They've been missing, Chris Middleton for almost the whole season. They were without Drew for a lot of the time. I think once they get their pieces back, they'll start rolling. And the Hawks, they're a team to me. They kind of, outshot expectations last season. I don't think they're as good as, some people maybe thought they would be following their run to the Eastern Conference Finals last year. But they also started slow last year and turned it on the back end. I think they'll ultimately climb up the standings and get back into the playoffs. But I think out of those three, the Pacers will probably be on the outside looking in.
Golden State, 11-2. They got Brooklyn tonight. You taking Golden State as a serious title contender?
Yeah, Mike, I think you have to. Anytime, obviously, you have arguably the best player right now in the game in Steph Curry, and they have a lot of good role players around him. They have a system that's been tried and true that they know works. The guys in there know what they're doing. And then they have an ace in their pocket, and obviously Klay Thompson coming back at some point this season. We don't know exactly what he's going to look like, but if he's even, 75, 80% of what he used to be, that's another huge threat and weapon that they'll have. And I think the West is a little bit down this year, and they definitely look like a team that could make a real run for sure.
He's Michael Kasky-Blomain at The Real Mike KV on Twitter. Sixers tonight, and of course you can hear that game. It's a 10 o'clock late night start. They got the Jazz, who you look out west, Michael. A lot of the teams on the west side of things, like the Jazz, who were the 1 seed, they ran out last year. They're kind of just right now. Denver, who's been really good, they're kind of stuck in the middle. See, what's it called? The Lakers, obviously, no LeBron. They're kind of right around 500. The West is really kind of a muddled mess right now. So we'll see. Do you think the East is actually deeper than the West this year?
Yeah, I think it is, Mike, especially like you said, when you're looking at it, a lot of the teams are kind of hovering around the middle, a little bit better than 500 in the West. There's a few teams that are obviously really good, but I think top to bottom, the East this year, there's you could make the argument there's more teams that are playoff ready, more teams that are deeper. So, if it's not better, it's at least as even as it's been in recent memory.
Who's worse, the process Sixers or the Rockets?
Oof, man. I'm probably going to go with the Rockets right now. I mean, I guess if you take the process Sixers 10-72 year, but the Rockets are pretty tough to watch at this point. But they do have obviously Jalen Green, something to look forward to moving forward. So I'll go with the Rockets.
They're terrible. My God, I was watching some of them the other night. They are horrible. That team.
It's good if you're looking for bets. Betting against the Rockets and the Pelicans so far this season has worked in my favor several times.
Nice. MKB, Michael Kasky-Blomain. Tuesdays, we talk NBA and Sixers right here on the Sports Bash live on 97.3 ESPN. All right, Michael, take care, my man.
Thanks for having me on, Mike.
As always, Michael Kasky-Blomain, of course, here on the Sports Bash live on 97.3 ESPN. Good NBA conversation, and we'll do it on Tuesdays throughout the season. Tomorrow, we'll be checking in with Paul Hudrick as the Sixers play the Jazz tonight. It's late night. We got a double disco for you tonight. Flyers, 7 o'clock. Actually, 7:30 for Flyers. The Flyers have that Hall of Fame ceremony tonight. So at 7:30 will be the start of Flyers Flames, and we'll take you from there to the Sixers Jazz. Then we got a weekend with the same situation. Flyers Boston, 7 o'clock. Sixers in Portland on Saturday night. We got a busy Saturday for you. Great lineup. Ohio State, Michigan State, huge Big Ten game. Notre Dame, Georgia Tech, Flyers, Boston, Sixers, Portland. That's Saturday here on 97.3 ESPN. I got a lot of tweets at Mike Gill Show for the first record, CD, or album or tape that you ever bought. I'll try to read some more off because there's some good ones coming in. There's one for you there, Josh. Linkin Park Hybrid Theory. That's from Dalton B. Miller on Twitter.
Dalton and I had the same one.
That's yours.
That was mine.
Dalton B. Miller, the NFL lead analyst at Pro Football Network, chiming in.
There you go.
Andrew
Wow.
DeCecco chimed in. He's going to be on at 4 o'clock, so I'll reserve to ask him on the air, but he did tweet his, as did our former midday guy, Harry Mays.
Oh.
Kiss Alive won Harry Mays' pick.
He went with Kiss.
Got some more here. Beastie Boys, Licensed to Ill.
That's a throwback.
A lot of tweets at me at Mike Gill Show. People listening in. I appreciate y'all. Sports Bash live, 97.3 ESPN. I see another one coming in. Green Day. Another Green Day. Green Day's got like 3 or 4. Question today. Just having some fun on Tuesday. We're going to try to make Tuesdays a little more fun. You know, we're getting around the holidays. My girlfriend said, "What do you have, a slow sports day?" I go, "Not really. It's just Tuesday."
You know why she's saying that? Because, you know, what happened last year when we had COVID. So she's probably thinking, what, we back to COVID again?
Well, these were all my topics in my COVID topic list that I never got to.
It was you never got
I'm going to do them on Tuesday. These are the COVID shows, Tuesdays. All right, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. 10 till the top of the hour, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. I'm Mike Gill. Sports Bash brought to you by Jenkins. Call Jenkins for heating and air conditioning installation service and maintenance, plumbing or drain cleaning service. 609-641-6440 or jenkinsplumbingheating.com. Somebody hit me up on the text. 50 Cent, get rich or die trying. I was in 5th grade and my parents didn't know. I scooped up the explicit version. That's from Cole and LBI. Dan and Absekin's first tape was 2 Live Crew. Bought it at Bradley's in Ventnor. Now, this is funny, Dan, because my mother had asked me, what do I want for Christmas? And I said, I want the 2 Live Crew cassette, right? I said, I would like the 2 Live Crew cassette tape. And I didn't tell my mom anything about it, and my mom didn't know anything about it. And I just put it on my Christmas list. Hey, give me your Christmas list. And I said, 2 Live Crew cassette. So my mom goes to the store, the Wall, Sam Goody, whatever it was back in the day. She walks up to the counter and says, hey, I would like the 2 Live Crew for my son. And they give her the cassette tape. And if you remember the 2 Live Crew cassette tape for, what was the name of the first album? Well, if you remember the the album art for the first album that they had, right? Which was I don't think it was the first one. It was As Nasty as They Want to Be. That was the big one that they had. So it wasn't their first album. But so I say to my mom, she says, make your Christmas list. I write 2 Live Crew cassette tape, As Nasty as They Want to Be. That's the thing. And if you remember the 2 Live Crew album cover, it's the picture of the 4 guys from 2 Live Crew and then 4 women basically dressed in thong bikinis standing over top their heads. So, and right on it, of course, it has like the explicit language thing. And my mom goes up to the guy at, Sam Goody or the Wall and is like, hey, can I have 2 Live Crew? So here's my mother. I don't know how old she is at the time, but hi, can I have 2 Live Crew? The guy hands it to her. I was like, what are you doing with this? The first track of the album is Me So Horny, right? So yeah, needless to say, she was like, you asked me for I'm like 12 years old. What year is this? 1989? I had to be 12, right? That album was great. I mean, some of the titles of the song I can't even read on the radio, right? Some of the number 10 is unreadable on the radio. Track 10, unreadable on the radio. There's a couple other ones, but that's 1980. Well, no, the album was released February 7th, 1989 was when the album got released. The album got recorded in 88. It was released February of 89. So February of 89, I'm 12 years old. I say, Mom, I would like 2 Live Crew. And I got it. I got that album for Christmas. I don't think my mom did a lot of background check on that. But this guy said he bought the 2 Live Crew at Bradley's in Ventnor. How about that? Now that's tying this conversation very full circle on us all today. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, 609-403-0973. Bill and EHT, the Sugar Hill Gang, and Grandmaster Flash. Excellent pick there for you, Bill, in EHT. This is, for those of you just tuning in, we kind of got off track somehow, but it's been fun today. The first album, CD, or tape that you ever purchased. Cat Stevens' Greatest Hits, Matt B. from Absekin. Now, Cat Stevens' Greatest Hits, you're going, man, Cat Stevens' Greatest Hits album. When are we going? We're going to 1975 with that. That's the first album you ever bought. I wasn't born yet. What's you're looking at what? What would be a Cat Stevens' Greatest Hits? I guess Wild World. Another Saturday Night. Is that Cat Stevens? Or they go? Cat Stevens actually has the greatest hits, huh? How about that? not a big Cat Stevens guy.
You got Oh Very Young. You got Can't Keep It In. Moonshadow. Two Fine People.
Hope that guy had a good time, Matt B, with that album. Andrew DeCecco, football at 4. Latest on the Eagles coming up next here on the Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast, and it is brought to you by Caesars Entertainment Group of Atlantic City. Come experience the ultimate sports destinations all season long. Wild Wild West, Tropicana, Harrah's Resort, Atlantic City. Book your game day experience today at Caesars.com. I'm Mike Gill. Andrew DeCecco's here today as we get ready for Eagles and the Saints, and how much more important this game has now become. How did we get here? Well, we got Andrew here to kind of bring it up for us here on the Sports Bash live on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. What's going on, Andrew? How are you, my friend?
Hey, Mike, how you doing? I heard that Everclear in the background.
That was for you, man. I saw your tweet. That's your first album, tape, CD you've ever purchased?
I think it was a cassette circa 1997.
Cassette, yeah. Now, my first tape, I bought a tape. The first music I bought myself was a tape, cassette tape. REM was the first album that I bought. Now, we've got some unbelievable answers today coming in. Mine was REM, Out of Time. Now, I saw you went with Everclear. That was the first album. Now, I know you're like big hair metal band, right?
Yeah. It's funny because nowadays I do frequent record stores quite a bit. And now I'm trying to find any vintage 80s hair metal, hard rock album that I could find to add to my collection. So it's like Britney Fox, Cinderella, Poison, Motley Crue, Skid Row, you name it.
Nice. All right. So yours is Everclear, So Much for the Afterglow, you think. You said might have been.
It was either that or Bare Naked Ladies, that album that came out in 98.
Oh,
so I'm pretty sure it was I'm pretty sure it was the Everclear one.
All right. The Bare Naked Ladies album, by the way, that was a fantastic album. What the heck was the name of the Bare Naked Ladies first album? Now you're jogging my brain there a little bit. What was that, Stunt? Or was it the self-titled album?
Yeah. Stunt. You're right. 1998, I think it came out.
Yeah, Stunt was the first one. All right, good one there. All right, so Andrew DeCecco, Football 4. Let's retrack ourselves back to that side of things because the Eagles won this week 4-6, and they did it in an impressive fashion. Let's start with Nick Sirianni and the growth he has shown as a play caller and head coach.
Yeah. I mean, it's very impressive. I mean, he's improved by leaps and bounds, Mike, as far as just having a great feel of utilizing his personnel. He even in the running game, I mean, instead of just lining up and running it like he's done the past couple of weeks, he was running out of different formations to sort of throw off a tough Denver Broncos front. And he mixed in the passing game because obviously the Denver Broncos were scheming to get Jalen Hurts to take away the running element and make Jalen Hurts sort of win with his arm. And he did that quite well in the first half of that game and made some really nice throws. It's just him finding this balance, and he's really starting to find his own identity as a play caller. And it's really interesting to watch his evolution as a first-year coach because everything seems to be coming together at the right time.
Yeah, I know that, he ran the ball 40 times this week, and that's something that we all wondered. Was he going to stick with it? And I guess the question moving forward is once Miles Sanders returns and how this all works out, because it's funny, I did a show a couple weeks ago when I talked about maybe Sanders being out will kind of have him scale the offense back. And you wonder if him scaling the offense back help him kind of backwards himself into what this team is good at. And getting Sanders back, does he stick with this? And does Sanders become the guy who gets a lot of these carries?
Well, based on now we have 3 games here to really see. Sirianni's really he didn't revert back to that pass-happy foundation that he sort of prided himself on in the early part of the season. So, I have a feeling that he's going to continue to stick with what's working instead of reverting back to obviously what was putting them into that early season hole. And that is, there is a role for Miles Sanders on this team. However, I think it behooves him to stick with the formula of Jordan Howard and Boston Scott and mix in Miles Sanders because he is the most dynamic running back on the roster. So find spots to utilize him because he does offer home run ability. But I think right now, Jordan Howard and Boston Scott, just that no nonsense between the tackle running. It also added a physical element that the team was lacking. I think that they need to continue to stick with that, but also sprinkle in some Miles Sanders. I do think that Kenny Gainwell will probably be the odd man out because it's very hard to work in 4 different running backs, let alone dress 4 running backs on game day.
Right. Now, you said there is a role for Sanders. Is that you're saying almost, I mean, Boston Scott's getting half the carries. They're almost splitting them in half, 12 and 11. Would you rather see those 11 carries go to Sanders, or would you like to see Scott continue to get that volume of touches?
I think Boston Scott has proven that he deserves those carries because he's doing more with them. He's maximizing his opportunities. And Miles Sanders, for as explosive as a player as he is, Mike, some of his biggest detriment is that sometimes he's quick to bounce it outside, look for the big play, and he loses yards. And all of a sudden, instead of, 2nd and 6, it's now, 2nd and 11 or something to that effect because he's too quick to do that dancing behind the line of scrimmage, and all of a sudden the offense is in a hole, and then you have to lean on the passing game, and things start to spiral out of control that way. He's not a very rhythmic runner. He's a volatile player. So that's the nature of his style, right? I mean, that's why I think that if you sprinkle in and are very calculated with his touches, he can be very effective. However, I don't think that he can be a bell cow running back.
The interesting thing with him is he offers something that the other two really don't, which is he can hit the home run. He can hit you the 75-yard run. And if the way the offensive line is blocking and providing gaping holes right now, if Sanders gets through that hole and gets to that second level, you can see some big-time runs out of him, which kind of is interesting because, he showed a couple flashes this year, but he hasn't had the big run. He had a couple of those big runs last year. But as we know, Andrew, in those flashes, he was only getting 4 or 5 carries. He wasn't getting 11, 15 carries. And you would think the way this line is blocking, he might be able to hit a big run or two.
Yeah, I think that's fair. But I also think that you've seen what having 2 guys who are just real in Boston Scott and Jordan Howard, who don't do a whole lot of fancy footwork and at the line of scrimmage, they kind of just see the hole, hit it, and accelerate to that second level. That's really what's needed because they fall forward for positive yards. They don't put the offense in a hole. Yes, you're right. Boston Scott or Miles Sanders does have that home run ability, which is why I think you need to utilize him. Another reason why I think that Kenny Gainwell might be the odd man out is because Boston Scott and Miles Sanders can catch the football as receivers out of the backfield. So that sort of renders Kenny Gainwell sort of moot. I mean, you can kind of leave him inactive if you don't want to dedicate 4 active spots on game day to 4 running backs.
All right, Andrew DeCecco, Football at 4. Over at InsideTheBirds.com, you wrote about Devontae Smith and the game that he kind of had. But really, this is a guy who I really thought had the first game where he looked like the game kind of slowed down for him, where he kind of just let the game come to him. He made that catch, but he had some other plays in that game that really showed a guy who, for whatever reason, the first couple games, he made some plays and you weren't like, man, this guy's a bust, but he hadn't kind of stood out. I thought this game, he really jumped off the screen.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that, Mike, was him sort of finding his way because absent Dallas Goedert and in the early part of the season, Miles Sanders before he got hurt, there wasn't a strong supporting cast, and it was Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert and Miles Sanders and everyone else. And I think now he's sort of found his footing, so to speak, in the NFL, and he's able to play a little bit, freely. And I think that also comes with his that rekindled connection with Jalen Hurts. I think everything's starting to come together at the right time. And, he's really impressed. He's always been a great route runner. He's always been someone that can separate with regularity. That hasn't been his issue. It's been more so missed opportunities from Jalen Hurts not seeing the field particularly well. And he hasn't really had a lot of contested catch opportunities to really prove that he could do that. And I mean, now we saw a sample of everything that he's able to do. You saw the short to intermediate work on that touchdown to get free in the middle of the end zone. But how about that 36-yard touchdown catch over his former teammate, at Alabama, Patrick Surtain. That proved his ability to go up and get the football when it wasn't necessarily right. I mean, with the defender all over him, that was great coverage by Pat Surtain. And he came up with that football and got in bounds, and he just really showed his body control and his ability to attack the catch point. I mean, that was just a phenomenal job by two young players the Eagles hope will be in their plans for the next 10 years. Obviously, Devontae Smith will, but Jalen Hurts, that was a nice throw as well.
It was. And yesterday, Nick Sirianni was asked about, hey, what do you say to those people who has already come to the conclusion that Jalen Hurts can't be a franchise quarterback? And Nick Sirianni said, well, watch the last 3 games. Do you feel that the Eagles, I don't want to say have made a decision, but are leaning one way towards Jalen Hurts?
Every throw that Jalen Hurts makes this season is going to be dissected and overanalyzed regardless. But if any objective observer would be remiss to ignore his growth and development, as incremental as it may seem at times, Mike. But, I mean, in decision-making, ball placement, and pocket presence, these are areas of his game that have improved immensely in the past 3 weeks. Obviously, his elevated performance is directly correlated with a shift in offensive philosophy, which we touched on. Mm-hmm. And I really do think that, he puts the work in. I mean, that's been stated multiple times. He has the respect of his veteran teammates, and now the intangibles are starting to surface, and you're starting to see him build some continuity in the offense and find us. And he's in a system right now with Nick Sirianni that's really starting to accent his strengths. And I think he looks a lot more comfortable out there. I think he's making proper decisions, and he's starting to come into his own a little bit here. And, you can't help but wonder if he was fueled a little bit by Howie Roseman observing Kenny Pickett and Sam Howell on last Thursday. Sometimes those things can, galvanize a player, and you start to see things sort of come together. But, I mean, Jalen Hurts has shown a lot, and I think that he's trending upwards. And, the one thing to consider, to remember, Mike, is everyone wants this is like a microwave society. Everybody wants instantaneous results, and that was never going to be the case with Jalen Hurts. However, you are seeing promise, you are seeing improvements, and that's all you can really ask for. They're in position right now for a potential wild card spot if they continue this trajectory, and that connection with Devontae Smith should leave a lot of people excited about the future of this franchise.
All right, I agree with a lot of that. The Hurts, I think he's growing. I thought he played his best game, maybe period, on Sunday. I thought the throw he made to Smith, the throw that he made to Watkins that he dropped, and the throw that he made to Goddard, those 3 were 3 different types of throws, 3 different types of positioning with the feet, and I thought all of them required a lot of patience. I mean, the rollout to Smith, he has to reset his feet and then let that thing go. I mean, it's easy to roll out there and then try to rush that thing. The throw he made to Goddard, I thought that was maybe the best play he made of the game. Goddard ends up getting ripped on the play, but that wasn't because the throw was bad. That's just the way the tackle. And then where he placed that ball on Quez Watkins, I mean, that's malpractice for Watkins to drop that. I thought those 3 were really 3 different examples of 3 different throws that I don't know that he makes earlier in the season.
Exactly. And that's how you sort of have to evaluate it. Would he make those plays in week 2, 3, 4, 5? No. I mean, a lot of times he's going to prematurely leave the pocket and pick up 5, 10 yards with his legs. This time, or now he's starting to let routes develop. He's working off his first read, and you're starting to see him process things a little bit faster, and he's seeing the entire field. Are there going to be plays he's going to leave on the field? Yeah, that's going to happen. But, I mean, he's right where I think the Eagles would like him to be at this point, and I think he's trending in the right direction. So, I mean, it's very encouraging to see these things, Mike, and I think it's only going to improve. The one thing that if you're the Eagles, you need to look at is you have Devontae Smith, and he's starting to break out, and that's all good and well. But if Dallas Goedert can't go next week, the Eagles really don't have a lot of – there's no other competent, reliable passing receiving options that he can really lean on. And I mean, Quez Watkins and Jalen Reagor, they're secondary players. I mean, Quez Watkins dropped a phenomenal pass in the end zone. I mean, he needs playmakers around him, And right now, there's only a handful that you can really count on.
Hey, this could be a jump starting of J.J. Arcega-Whiteside's career as maybe like running some of the Goddard routes. I don't know. Talking with Andrew DeCecco. Somehow J.J. Arcega-Whiteside got hurt in that game the other day. I know he had been injured, but he ended up getting hurt again in that game. All right, some of the keys to the game that you looked at. T.J. Edwards, Davion Taylor against the tight ends. Now, the tight ends both had Font had a good game. Albert O had a good game. But what are you seeing from the – because I thought the linebackers actually played much better this week.
Yeah, they're aggressive, they're instinctive, and they're tenacious. And they're playing with a physicality that hasn't been there since in the early part of the season. Hasn't really been there since the Detroit game. And that's when you started to see that that combination really sort of invigorate that defense that was sort of didn't have an identity, and it was also very passive, and their running backs were having success getting to that second level. Offensive linemen were getting to that second level and extinguishing these players, rendering them ineffective. And now you're starting to see guys like T.J. Edwards take on these pulling guards, take a attack downhill, and Davion Taylor, who's very fast and athletic, and he's always around the football. And I think that the more that you see him out there, the more he's starting to pick up things and learn on the job. And I mean, again, we talk about how it's encouraging to see that from Jalen Hurts. Well, Davion Taylor and T.J. Edwards, they're complementary players in an ideal system. But right now, that's the best of what the Eagles have, and they're maximizing that, and they're getting better. And I think that makes the defense better, and I think ultimately they're going to help improve and solidify that area throughout until they make changes to that position and retweak it in the offseason.
Yeah, I know last week John Gannon's defense, and John Gannon specifically, was much maligned. So I'll ask you, Andrew, did he make adjustments, or did he just play a defense, an offense that was just not very good?
I mean, you saw some press with the corners, and you saw some pressure with the defensive line. Obviously, Derek Barnett got the only sack, but you saw Teddy Bridgewater was under a lot more duress than pressure than the Eagles had been applying since really the Detroit game. And I think it was just more so of Teddy Bridgewater is who he is. He's not really going to push the ball down the field. So you sort of shrink the field on him. You get pressure bearing down on him. Now, the running game in the second and third quarter in particular, they started to get gashed in that area again. And you started to say, oh, here we go. What is he going to do to sort of combat that? What kind of changes is he going to be able to make at this point to stop Javonte Williams and Melvin Gordon? But I thought overall, that the defense played more cohesive, and I think that that's starting to come with just a little bit of tinkering from Jonathan Gannon, but also this unit playing together. Now you have Davion Taylor and T.J. Edwards there, and I think it's more of a continuity thing, and that's something to watch in the coming weeks.
Yeah, there's they're not facing. I mean, I guess Simeon's going to get the start this week. I mean, and this is kind of in games that they've won, Andrew, is when the quarterback is just an average guy. For whatever reason, it's a much different game. What is so predicated that one quarterback throws 80%, they go up and down the field, 40 points they've given up twice, and they're not doing much differently. So why is the outcomes and the results so different based on the quarterback?
Well, these upper echelon quarterbacks, they see things faster. They know how to dissect a secondary, and the Eagles, and they know how to sort of work around a defensive line who is very aggressive in the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, when you have a quarterback who's a little bit inexperienced, or they're just not, or they're on that bottom tier like a Trevor Siemian, they don't process things as quickly, and they're keying in on their first read, and you're making them second guess their decision making, and then they tend to be more turnover prone and prone to mistakes. And if they're going to, obviously, if it's a younger quarterback like that or an inexperienced one, they're going to try and lean on the running game. So obviously you try to stop the running game and make him win as a passer. And once you do that, guys like Josh Sweat and Fletcher Cox and Javon Hargrave, they can sort of pin their ears back and make them accelerate their thought process and force some poor throws.
I want to go back real fast because we didn't discuss this, but it was my fault for not bringing it up. But Landon Dickerson, Jordan Mailata, that left side of the line, just the offensive line in general, how much of what they do has led to the success and the change in the philosophy?
Yeah, I mean, two maulers right there. I think that Jordan Mailata, we all knew that, but I think Landon Dickerson really has come into his own as a run blocker. Not as proficient right now as a rookie in pass protection, but as when he's able to lean in and use his gritty strength and his nastiness as a road grader, I think the Eagles are really playing to his strength right now, and you're starting to see him just win at the point of attack. And, obviously in the offseason, he's going to have to work on his pass protection. I think right now that's his area of improvement. But, I mean, just that left side of the line has been dominant, especially over the past few weeks. And I think that's only going to continue to get better as the continuity continues on to this final stretch of games.
Yeah, I know that people were saying why Dickerson. He had the injury issues, but I think you're starting to see why the Eagles took him in that second round. They've essentially, Andrew, kind of rebuilt this offensive line quietly right before our very eyes. And that's a lot because last year they needed to play guys like Herbig and Driscoll, and now those guys have a lot of playing experience. So when they get called on, they're ready to go. And, as guys start to age out a little bit like Lane Johnson, we'll see what happens with Brandon Brooks and obviously Jason Kelce. They have 5 guys that they probably feel pretty comfortable with.
Yeah, and it's almost like these guys were learning on the job last year, but now all of a sudden, in guys like you look at Driscoll and Nate Herbig, you have competent backups. Andre Dillard, we don't know what his immediate future is going to look like, but right now, I mean, if he had to step in and play left tackle in the absence of Jordan Mailata, that he can do so adequately. I mean, he really impressed in his stint as a starter this season. I mean, they have a lot of depth, but then obviously their starting unit is very, very formidable. One of the best in football, I would say. And getting Brandon Brooks back into that mix is going to really, for this last stretch of games to make that playoff push. I mean, that's going to be a monumental addition to the team right now. And right now, their offensive line is their strongest unit on the team right now. And it's something that you really need, especially as the weather gets colder. You're starting to lean on that running game. I mean, it's a different feeling to see an Eagles offensive line at full strength right now.
So far-fetched to say playoffs at this point. Wait and see, or do you think this team will show consistency over the final month and a half of the season?
I think there's enough veterans on this team that can help guide the young players along the way. And you have a young player like a Devontae Smith who is very focused, very driven, very detail-oriented, the first guy in the complex. Jalen Hurts, who is he's a tireless competitor. He always is in the complex studying film and working on his areas of improvement. I think if they have the young players that they do have combined with the veteran players that the Eagles already have, I think that's a good mix of players who know what it takes to win. And I think it's going to keep them focused and hungry each and every week for this. And they know that the playoffs are a realistic possibility here. And I think that they're going to be able to capitalize on some poor play in the NFC East. And I mean, I wouldn't say the playoffs are out of the conversation, Mike. I think they can snag one of the final spots and things can get a lot interesting here in December and January.
All right. Not to put you on the spot, but I know that you know the answers to these questions. You got some action tonight. Who you keeping an eye on? Who are some guys in tonight's games that our listeners should zone in on?
I actually have not even. I've been so busy with covering, football that I haven't covering the NFL that I haven't really had a chance to even dive into that.
No action for you tonight. Toledo, Ohio, Western Michigan, Eastern Michigan, Bowling Green, Miami of Ohio. And I know that once we get to draft season, you will have the answer to those questions immediately.
Oh yeah. Right now it's just Eagles and NFL, 24/7.
Absolutely. All right. And he'll be back on Thursday here on the Sports Bash Live 97.3 ESPN for another edition of Football at 4. All right, Andrew, take care, man.
See you, man.
That's Andrew DeCecco here on the Sports Bash Live 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app. And, of course, that is brought to you every day, 4 o'clock, Football at 4 by Caesars Entertainment Group of Atlantic City. Come experience the ultimate sports destinations all season long, Wild Wild West, Tropicana Heritage Resort, Atlantic City. Book your game day experience today at Caesars.com. All right, coming up, who are the 14 playoff teams? 7 on each side. Who's in? Who's out? That's coming up here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. Which 14 NFL teams will make the NFL playoffs? I have my picks coming up next right here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. Sports Bash brought to you by Matt Blatt Nissan, the all-new Matt Blatt Nissan Open, Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township, next to Home Depot. Online, MattBlattNissan.com. Sports Bash, who's in, who's out, brought to you by BMW of Atlantic City, closer than you think, online, BMW.com. This was one of the responses we got today. Bill on Twitter, at Mike Gill Show, tweeted, Joy to the World, 3 Dog Night 45. First album, CD, or tape he's ever bought. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. It's time for Who's In, Who's Out. These are the 14 teams that I think will make the playoffs. Now, I can't tell you that I have high confidence level in these teams. I mean, it is just absolutely, Josh, in all the years that we've done Who's In, Who's Out, and this is fun because obviously it gives us a chance to look at all the teams around the league. I watch a lot of the games. Now, I watch games. I don't watch Red Zone, so I get into teams. I get to watch them for a full game. I'm not just watching skimpy highlights. You know what I mean?
I think your interpretation of Red Zone is very, very disingenuous.
They're showing you plays inside the 20-yard line for the most part.
That's not true. They show you, a good chunks of games. Obviously, they check out of games though that are blowouts.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, they're not giving you the whole drives. I mean,
well, no, they give you full drives for certain games.
Yeah.
But like for example,
4 o'clock more so than noon.
For example, I was watching Red Zone for the Eagles game on Sunday, and once the Patriots Browns game was starting to get out of hand, they just were checked out of that game. Like the only reason I knew what was going on in that game is because I was tracking on my phone because I had some fantasy guys involved. But on Red Zone, they focused way more on a bunch of other games, and you were getting full chunks of those games. Every once in a while, Scott Hans would check in and be like, "We just want to let you know we haven't forgotten about the Patriots and Browns game, but we just figure you guys don't really care about that game unless somebody scores."
Well, speaking of Patriots and Browns, all right, I watched some of that game on Sunday. It was absolutely a blowout, which makes us go to the East. Buffalo 6-3, New England 6-4. They play each other twice.
It's gonna be a fascinating
matchup.
matchup.
Man, I don't know what to do here. Buffalo has not impressed me the last couple of weeks. Now they played Jacksonville and lost. They played Miami. They played the Jets. I'm going to go with the Bills here, but I don't feel confident with that pick.
I got the feeling the Patriots are going to come up a little bit later in this conversation.
Baltimore in the North, that division, have no clue. Baltimore's got injury problems. They did not look good the other day. They looked terrible. What was that? Thursday night, they lost to the freaking Dolphins at home.
Game is so ugly.
Pittsburgh ties Detroit. I mean, the last time we saw Cincinnati, they got bombed. And Cleveland, Busteroni. So you got 4 teams in that division. I'm going to go Baltimore here just because Lamar Jackson's the best of the bunch.
Listen, as soon as I saw that Ben Roethlisberger was out on the COVID list,
you knew that was happening.
I knew that the Lions were going to cover the spread. I just didn't expect it to be a tie.
The one problem I had with Pittsburgh, man, is their offense is just so limited.
Listen, their GM was one of the GMs at the North Carolina Pitt game.
Well, they need a quarterback. That's fair. I mean, we know Roethlisberger's at the end of the line, but they haven't been able to get anybody to replace him.
Yeah, they've drafted Mason Rudolph, Josh Dobbs.
What's it say for Haskins that he couldn't get into that game?
Dude, the fact that Haskins, they literally brought him there to potentially be the heir apparent, and you stuck with Mason Rudolph the entire time is
so
a
bad.
Huge negative against Haskins.
I don't know what to do in the North, though. I'm going to go Pittsburgh. I'm going to go Baltimore because Jackson is the best of that group. And there's some good ones. If you got Roethlisberger, a 2-time Super Bowl champion, you got Burrow, who I like a lot. I'm out on Baker Mayfield.
Seems like a lot of people are starting to be out on him.
But Jackson, to me, is the guy there. South, I'm going to go Tennessee. I think Tennessee in the AFC is the only one that is I feel good about.
They're probably the only team you can say right now with any level of certainty that if you put your money on it, know they're going to win.
They're
going to
make the playoffs. So I think with any level of certainty, Tennessee's getting in.
Not just make the playoffs, win the division. They're going to win that division.
They're 3 full games up on Indy, and they've beaten Indy.
Yeah.
So I feel pretty good.
Indy was their only competition.
In the West, I'm going Kansas City. Now, last week I went Kansas City. I'm with Kansas City.
Now, do the Raiders play the last couple of weeks? Does that make you feel way less confident in them staying competitive in that division?
Say again?
The Raiders' losses recently.
Yeah.
Does that make you feel a lot less believing they could be
All of
competitive?
them. The Chargers lost.
Right.
They lost at home to Minnesota. The Raiders, all of a sudden, they look like what I thought they were. And Denver. I mean, you got 4 teams that are all within a half a game each other for the most part. This division's like the North. They're just like Kansas City, I think, is back to getting there. I think they're kind of on the right track now.
Kansas City has the best coach and the best quarterback in the division.
There we go. Wild cards. New England.
Thought so.
And these last 2, it's dog do. I mean, you have Denver 5 wins, Vegas 5 wins, LA 5 wins, Indy 5 wins, Cleveland 5 wins, Cincy 5 wins, Pittsburgh 5 wins. 7 teams with 5 wins for 2 spots.
I mean, you have to figure out which team do you have more confidence in to be able to win down the stretch. And to me, it comes down to, okay, Tomlin, he's a guy who knows how to win games.
I had Pittsburgh. I crossed them out. I went Indianapolis.
Really?
I like Indianapolis.
It's
running
good for
game.
The Eagles to get that pick.
Yeah, they're going to get that pick, yeah. He's not coming out.
I think he's at 59%.
He was going to miss his wife's giving birth on Sunday. You would think they'd be like, listen, we're playing Jacksonville. Stay home. No. They're getting that Colt pick.
Is there a conspiracy now that maybe Wentz is part of the conspiracy to get the Eagles to pick?
No. I'm going Indy. I like Taylor in the run game.
All right.
I like their defense. And I went with the Chargers.
You say that very reluctantly.
I am. What am I? I mean, I could have said Pittsburgh. I could have said Cincinnati. I could have said Cleveland. I could have said Vegas or Denver, and I would have been very reluctant on any of those. Who are you putting in?
I would put Pittsburgh in because of Tomlin. I feel like Tomlin would find a way.
I like Frank Reich, and I like Herbert.
That's fair. I mean, to me, I can't put the Bengals in because of the Bengals.
I don't have the Bengals in.
How can you believe in the Bengals at this point? You can't.
The AFC has 7 teams for 2 spots right now. The 2 teams currently are New England. Pittsburgh's 5 because of the tie. They're 5-3-1.
Right.
New England 6 and Chargers are 7. So the one team is Pittsburgh gets in. I have Indy in over Pittsburgh.
There you go.
But the other 2 teams, the Chargers have some tiebreakers over. That's why I like them a little bit more.
Okay.
But the AFC's got 7 teams with 5 wins. All right, let's go to the NFC.
Not much better.
Actually, you know what? Let's take a break here, and then we'll do the NFC on the other side, all right? Sports Bash Live 97.3. It's because it's so hard to do. I can't fit it all in one. Seriously, I got 7 teams with 5 wins for 2 spots in the AFC. It's going to be pretty crazy down the stretch, to be honest with you. I'll do the NFC on the other side. Sports Bash brought to you by Matt Blatt Kia. They want to get you approved today. Matt Blatt, 6211 Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township. I'll do the NFC. Who's in, who's out on the other side. Stick around. Sports Bash this hour brought to you by PropSwap, America's sports betting marketplace. Sell your sports bets and take your profit. Find out how. PropSwap.com. Download the PropSwap app today. You can actually buy a ticket for the Eagles to make the playoffs. If they win this week, you post that thing on PropSwap because those odds are going to improve considerably. I think the odds go, if they win this week, to like 48% chance that they make the playoffs.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So buy now, sell later.
Buy the ticket now. If they win this week, then you can post that ticket over at PropSwap, and you would get some pretty good offers on that, I'm sure. All right. Who's in? Who's out? I did the AFC. Let's do the NFC now. The AFC is bizarre. 7 teams with 5 wins.
Right.
Fighting for 2 spots. All right. In the NFC, I like Dallas in the East.
Makes sense.
Thank you.
You're
I like
welcome.
Green Bay in the North.
Also makes sense.
I got Tampa in the South, even though there's only a 1-game separation. Tampa's lost. That was Bobo. They've lost 2 in a row now.
Someone suggested that Tampa's bored and that they need to get close to the postseason to refocus.
I'm okay. I mean, I'm not panicking on them, but they did lose to the Saints. There's only 1 game, but the Saints have now lost 2 games since they beat Tampa.
Right.
I'm sticking with Tampa. The West is tough. I'm going to go Arizona in the West. I think I went Rams last week, but I don't like OBJ. I think he's just a bad teammate. They didn't need him. They forced him onto that team,
Right.
and I think it's ruined for 1 game only. It ruined the flow of that offense.
It's starting to feel like that the Rams are maybe trying too hard.
The Rams are what the Washington football team used to be when they were the Redskins. When they went out and just signed free agents all the time, and it never worked. They won the offseason. Every offseason, Washington did for like the early 2000s, and the Rams football is not an all-star team. You can't do that.
Football's about chemistry.
And that bothers me. So I'm going Arizona, even though I don't love that team all of a sudden. I'm having problems. Arizona's got some injury issues.
Yeah, but I think once Kyler Murray and Hopkins
True. That's why I'm going to
back,
stick with them.
they'll be okay.
I got the Rams as 1 wild card team.
Yeah,
For
I
God's
think
sakes, they have 7 wins. They're 4 games over 500.
you just have to assume they're going to figure it out. At
Yeah.
some point.
And this is where it gets hard.
Right. This is where it gets really dicey. Because now with Seattle losing last week,
I had Seattle
that
in
throws a
last week
wrench
because
in
I
there,
figured
yeah.
that Wilson would get them back on track. They look terrible.
they looked horrendous.
Seattle's got 3 wins. San Francisco's got 4. Atlanta's got 4. Carolina's got 5. The Saints have 5. The Bears have 3. Minnesota has 4. New York, Washington have 3. And Philadelphia has 4. The current 2 teams are the Saints and Carolina. They both have 5. I don't have either one of those teams getting in. I can't put Trevor Siemian in the playoffs. I'm sorry.
I know you keep saying that.
He stinks.
He does, but their defense is really good, and that's what's keeping them in a lot of games.
Ah.
That Tennessee game was way closer than it should have been.
Are they going to go to Cam Newton? What's the story out there this
Yeah,
week? Is he starting?
They're preparing him so he will
PJ
eventually
Walker
be
played
the
well.
starter. He did, but they want Cam to be the guy.
I mean, they're acting like Cam came in and I'm back. PJ Walker could have ran those 2 touchdowns in.
They want Cam to be the guy.
All right. Well,
Now,
then
listen.
I can't put them. Then I can't. If they want Cam to be the guy, I can't put you in.
Here's the thing, though. Matt Rule has known PJ Walker a long time. If he's saying Cam over PJ Walker, I have to assume that Matt Rule knows something that we don't.
Yeah, and I know something he doesn't. Cam Newton ain't making the playoffs. All right. I'm going San Francisco.
You like that win last night?
I was very impressed with them last night. I loved what they did with Deebo Samuel. I think that just added a little there. I feel like they got a little mojo back. I liked them a lot in the preseason. I had them winning the West. I stuck with them. Then I bailed on them. I'm going to pull them back. I'm going to pull them back, and they're going to get a wild card. I think San Francisco gets in.
That I can rock with because of the fact that I have been a guy, I believe, you know me, I believe in certain coaches. And I feel like Kyle Shanahan is a guy who finds ways to win more often than not.
That leaves the last spot. Last week I went Arizona, Seattle, New Orleans. I already said New Orleans I'm not putting in.
And you already said Seattle looks horrible.
They're out. This is who's in, who's out. They're out. So it's between Minnesota, Chicago, Atlanta, Carolina, New Orleans, Seattle, Washington, New York,
And Philadelphia.
I got Philadelphia in.
That's a 7.
They're number 7.
To me,
this is the first time they got the easiest schedule.
Right.
The 7 teams they play, essentially the Saints are about the only team that can stop the run.
Right.
Nobody else on the schedule stops the run. And I think here's the big thing for me. Philadelphia hasn't won a home game yet.
Right.
You win 4 times on the road in the NFL. They're going to win some home games here. And they've played 6 road games. They've only played 4 games at home. So the rest of the way, Josh, they play 1, 2, 3, 4 more home games. They don't get on a plane the rest of the season. Their road games are at New York, and Washington. I think they're going to get to 8 wins. And 8 and 9, I think, will be the 7th seed.
Well, we've consistently said that 8 wins is going to be the benchmark. The team has to get to 8.
I think 8 and 9 is what they will finish. I think 8 and 9 is going to be the 7th seed. And keep in mind, they have tiebreakers over Carolina and Atlanta. So if Carolina gets 3 more wins to get to 8, Philly would beat them. If Atlanta gets 4 more wins to get to 8, Philadelphia would beat them. If they beat the Saints this week, both teams would have 5 wins. And if they both got to 8, Philly would have beaten the Saints. So I think it kind of gives you some insight on how I think this game's going to go this weekend.
I also think that Atlanta is less likely to be in contention for the postseason than New Orleans when we get to December.
Atlanta stinks. I mean, they won 4 in a row. Their defense is just not very good.
They've been surviving on offense for years.
Well, their defense has given up 263 points. Their offense is limited to 178 this year. They are a one-trick pony on offense with Ridley out. They got big problems at wide receiver.
Right.
They don't run the ball very well. Their offensive line's a disaster. All they have really is Pitts.
And Ryan.
That's it. And an average Ryan at that. I mean, he's not the same Ryan that won the MVP.
Sure, but he's better than probably maybe half the quarterbacks in the league. And you put him on a lot of teams, they look better.
That's what it comes down to for me, is Philadelphia's ability to run the ball now has shifted the focus to late in the year. They're a team that can run the ball and do a good job running the football. And the teams they play, which are very inept against the run the rest of the way.
Right. You think the Giants and the Jets are going to stop the Eagles' run game? Washington's defense has been a leaky faucet the entire year.
And they've lost Chase Young.
Which is huge because he was at least the one guy you looked at that defense and you're like, well, there's that guy. And now, nothing against Jonathan Allen and Montez Sweat and those guys, but Chase Young's another level special.
Absolutely. So there you go. That's who's in for me. Who is going to be in for 99 bottles? You have a chance to qualify for 99 bottles right now. Good luck right now. Get on the horn. 609-573-3776. 99 bottles. Vagabond Kitchen, Tap House, Egg Harbor Township next Wednesday. 3 callers right now. We're going to enter you for a chance to win a pair of tickets in 99 bottles. Everybody who qualify will walk out with a pair of tickets thanks to Vagabond Kitchen and Tap House, EHT. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. I'm Mike Gill. This hour, we got a busy one for you. Tuesday with Thompson. The PT's here. We'll talk to Pete Thompson in just a little bit. He's brought to you by Deborah Heart and Lung Center. When it's your heart, you don't take chances. Be sure to demanddeborah.org. PT headed to the Fly Guys game tonight. Flyers tonight taking on the Calgary Flames at the Wells Fargo Center. So we'll talk to Pete Thompson here in just a second. Now, I don't know if the PT's been listening throughout the course of the day today. We'll bring him into the show. Peter, how you doing, my friend?
I'm good, Mike. Just coming down the downslope here of the old Walt Whitman, looking at Philly live, trying to make my way around off-track betting and get myself over to the well.
A little early for the game tonight, so you don't have to deal with the old traffic up there, huh?
Well, we normally drive up with our Canadian friend who you know, but last night was the alumni game, so he was up doing that, like the PA for inside the building, and that's Steve Coates, of course, that I'm speaking of. And he was inside doing that, and then he stayed up here. Good on him.
Yeah, so
I'm sure there was some Canadian ginger ales that were imbibed after the alumni game last night.
Now, we've been asking our listeners today. I'm sure that you can add to this conversation. We've got a ton of reaction. As you know, when we have topics like this, we typically do. What is the first album, tape, or CD that you ever purchased?
All right. I know the first album I ever got was Led Zeppelin In Through the Outdoor because it has my favorite Zeppelin song on it, Fool in the Rain. And my brother would not let me touch his copy, so I had to buy my own copy at Sam Goody. However, I also think about the fact that the first concert that I ever went to was Boston. And when we got done, it was at the Spectrum. My brother said, well, what was it like? And I said, just like the record, but really, really loud, you know? So... And kids today are like, record? What's that? You know?
It's funny because the answers that we're getting are such a wide variety, you know, because some people bought an actual vinyl, some people bought a tape, and then others are on CD. And I was saying, like, if you put out a new album now, a new record or a new soundtrack, what is the physical piece that you get when you purchase it?
Exactly. And it's so funny how the technology changed and how quickly it changed. You know, I know that you remember BMG and Columbia House, right? So, like, at one point I had records, and then I distinctly remember one year for Christmas getting myself the Eric Clapton box set, Crossroads, and I got it on cassette. And I got it on cassette right as, like, CDs were coming to prominence. So then I was like, oh, you moron, why do you have this on cassette? Well, now, you know, when BMG and Columbia House were going, I believe my mother, may she rest in peace, came to me and said, Peter, you have a problem. And I go, what? And she says, you have 180 CDs. When are you going to have time to listen to all those? Well,
Yeah, well, the first thing that I purchased was a tape. I got a tape. It was REM Out of Time, the studio album, nice. Out of Time. Right. That was when, that was when Losing My Religion was like all over the radio. That wasn't my favorite song on the album, but that's the first tape that I ever bought. So that's 1991. I rode my bike like very far to go get it. Like, I'm like, I got to get this tape. I rode my bike very far. Like, if my parents knew that I rode my bike as far as I did, they probably would have, scolded me to do this. Now, so Out of Time, but I got a tape. Now, shortly after that, the CD started to push the tape out, and, the Out of Time tape was obsolete pretty quickly.
Right, and what's funny is you talk about cassette tapes. Like, I don't know if you know this, but I was once a paper boy. Did you know that?
I did not.
I delivered the Norristown Times-Herald. Whenever I run into good old Tony Leodora, I remind him that at one point I was the paper boy, right? So I remember the Talking Heads tape that had the song And She Was on it. And I was a big fan of that. And I played that over and 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 over again. I pretty much wore that one out because I really liked that tape so much.
I like it. Well, Pete Thompson, I know, I don't know if you do this purposely, but you leave your little score sheets here, right, from Sunday's Locker Room with Billy Schweim when you produce that show. and I see the PT picked against the Eagles 27-21. Billy went 34-21. Scott Grayson went Denver 27-24. What's that?
No, I'm talking to the nice girl who's letting me park.
Oh, okay.
So, yes, I do leave that purposely. I'll take a hotcakes with sausage. No, sorry, wrong day. I do leave that purposely, and I leave it for you so that you can see who picked what.
Right. Now, I went Philadelphia 28-25. I handed out game balls to Devontae Smith and Darius Slay. So,
sorry, I'm on the radio. I'm on the radio right now. Let me just park and I'll move. All right, you want me to back up?
You think that guy cares that you're on the radio right now?
Well, no, he clearly doesn't.
Well, why would he? What, are you going to hold up the whole place because you're on the radio?
Apparently.
You should have timed this out much better than this, Pete Thompson.
Right. Sorry about that, buddy. That's all my fault. I apologize.
Yeah, all right. So I picked the Eagles. You picked Denver. So my question moving forward is, did the Eagles show you enough on Sunday that you can start to feel more confident in them?
Oh, heck yeah. Absolutely. 110%. Listen, if they keep following that script of running the football, and I'm a huge fan of that, right? That's what they've discovered is running the football. Now, I don't like the fact that Dallas Goedert got hurt. I don't like the fact that, it was helmet to helmet and not called. I don't like any of that. But I absolutely 1,000% am in agreement with the fact that they are starting to show me exactly what I want to see them show me, which is progress, which is offensive capability, which is Jalen Hurts. Listen, I heard you talking earlier with Andrew DeCecco about Jalen Hurts and the question marks that were with him. And now even I'm warming up to Jalen Hurts and what his capabilities are. I think the guy is absolutely grown as a quarterback. And I agree with you. That was definitely his best game ever.
Okay, so one of the questions then I wanted to bring up to you is this. Do we feel, because entering this season, people like yourself and many others, I'm not just saying, like, I'm not poking you, I'm just saying people like you and many others felt that this organization was in a bad place. They had 4 wins. It felt like this was going to be a long kind of rebuild. I was not one of those people. Do you feel that the Eagles are moving in the right direction?
Yeah, no, I absolutely do. I mean, I'd like them to win a home game if they could. I'd like them to do it this Sunday when I'm going to be in attendance again against the Saints. But, so I can't fully just jump on board and go, oh, yeah, I'm in now. But I definitely feel, to your point, are they moving in the right direction? Absolutely, they're moving in the right direction. I don't know that they necessarily have the horses to be as competitive as you'd like them to be defensively, but I think offensively, they've discovered something with the running game. I also heard your point about what do? You can't have 4 running backs. That's fine. Kenny Gainwell, look, nice job, but rookies should sit and learn anyway. You're going to be going to the bench, son.
It's going to be very interesting, Peter, to see what they do moving forward here. And look, if they say that, I mean, Gainwell hasn't been a huge part of the offense anyway, but who is the odd man out? Who is the guy whose carries get kind of, lessened? I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting to see how Sirianni weaves. Now, as Sanders been officially, his activation can happen this week. We don't know that he's actually healthy enough to play yet, but it's going to be interesting to see because Sanders gives them something they don't really have at that position, is a guy who can hit the 75-yard touchdown. The Scott and Howard are not those kind of running backs.
100%. Yeah, no, and if you can get back a home run running back, that's a game changer. I mean, to me, a 65 or 75-yard breakaway touchdown run is just as good as throwing the deep ball. It's one of those backbreaker momentum plays that changes football game. So, yeah, he absolutely is their home run guy. And we'll see if he does come back this week. But that's what I would do. If I was king of the world or if I was Nick Sirianni, when Miles Sanders becomes available, I would have the running backs coach say, excuse me, Kenny, this is the deal, buddy. You've been making great progress, but, yeah, you're inactive.
We'll see. Pete Thompson, we also saw Devontae Smith, who had really kind of, I don't want to say a coming out party, but I thought he caught the ball in a variety of different ways, which was exciting to see the touchdown catch. He had that other first down catch. you're starting to see a guy who I feel like the game is kind of slowing down. And that's what's exciting for me is when you see that next jump of something, PFF, taking it for what they're worth, they actually have him ranked higher as a wide receiver than they do Jamar Chase. But if you look at Chase's numbers, you would say that he's been the better player. They don't agree.
Well, hands down, he's not a bust. We know what he's not. And he's not Jalen Reagor, and he's not a guy that you're scratching your head over and going, why did they pick this guy? And I agree that the maturation of him and the growth of him has been fun to watch. I mean, remember, he scored his first touchdown in the first game against Atlanta, but he still was sort of learning. And then there was a period of time where we were like, why are Hurts and Devontae Smith not on the same page? Well, we're not asking that question anymore because that ball that Jalen Hurts put up and the way that Devontae Smith, and not only did he go up and get it, but he went up over Patrick Surtain, who's no slouch, okay? His old Alabama teammate went up and fought him for the ball and got it. I mean, that's an outstanding, is anybody asking the question, is Devontae Smith durable enough? Is anybody asking the question? I don't know if he's going to be able to withstand the rigors of a 17-game season when he goes and makes a play like that. Heck no.
There were, though.
They're going,
there was a lot of people that were concerned about it.
Of course there were, but none other than one Mike Quick told us, don't worry, relax. This guy's going to be great. He's going to be special, and he has been great, and he has been special.
Pete Thompson, Tuesday with Thompson here on the Sports Bash Live. All right, so the next question is, no, you were at the game on Sunday, or that was that 2 weeks ago? Not 2 weeks ago. No, not in Denver, not in Denver. I mean, 2 weeks ago, the last home game.
My brother was in Denver. If you'd like to include a Thompson,
I meant the last home game.
Yes, I was at the last.
So you watched Herbert throw the ball up and down the field. So my question is, that game on Sunday, Bridgewater completes only 61% of his passes. Do we think that Gannon made adjustments, or is it just, hey, this defense works against bad offenses and it doesn't work against good offenses?
I think it's more the latter. I mean, first of all, in the Chargers game, Michael, my girlfriend's son, was sitting right next to me, and every time that Herbert would drop back and pass and hit Keenan Allen, Michael would say, Keenan Allen all day long, Keenan Allen all day long. And it was like watching it on auto repeat. Now, what shocked me is I predicted that since they've made even average quarterbacks look like a Hall of Famer Johnny Unitas type quarterbacks, that I predicted that the Eagles would do the same in Denver. And I think that the pass rush got home, even though I can't stand the guy for his stupid penalties. Derek Barnett had a sack. The pass rush had an impact. And I think also Teddy Bridgewater had a bad day. You know what I mean? Like by the end of the game, and I'm a big believer in body language and what body language tells you. By the very end of the game, when the Broncos were moving left to right, and Teddy Bridgewater was like, all right, well, let me roll out here. And I have Noah Fant. So, I mean, even though the Eagles are clearly going to win the game, I'm kind of like, yeah, throw it to Fant, right? And just that very last throw that Teddy Bridgewater had no chance of being completed to anyone. And I just thought to myself, all right, I don't know how much the Eagles contributed to that or Teddy Bridgewater had a bad day. I'm going to say it's a little more that Bridgewater had a bad day. But, hey, I'll take it.
No, you're right, though. Like, this to me, Pete, is one of the most, I cannot, normally, you have an opinion on, maybe not you, but you have an opinion as to why things happen, and you feel like, okay, after watching it, this is my thought. I cannot come up with a reason why in games they've won, the defense has been so efficient, and in games they've lost, they've just been a complete disaster. I mean, in the games they've won, Pete, I think they give up 10 points a game. I mean, how's that possible?
Well, and, the linebackers were better specifically, too, and I know you've talked about it. The game, to me, broke open on the Davion Taylor play, and that is not something that happened when Eric Wilson was out there. That's not something even that, Singletary makes, Davion Taylor is that forced fumble and the Darius Slay touchdown, to me, took a close game and made it a lapper. And that's outstanding.
Well, you know how much Roseman gets a lot of heat before his drafting, but Taylor, a guy they found in the third round, he's starting to contribute. Landon Dickerson, second round, that guy's been an absolute beast. Smith, it looks like they found a guy there. Obviously, Goddard's a guy they drafted a couple of years ago, but he was a second-round pick who's really, been given the chance to be the guy, and I think has really displayed that. So you're starting to see some guys The fact that, hey, they got some hits in the last 2 drafts, it looks like here.
Yeah, finally, and that's good to see. And now, of course, maybe it gives you a little more confidence on the 3 picks that they're going to have in the upcoming draft. I misspoke a little there. I said Singletary. I meant Alex Singleton.
Yes.
But, and T.J. Edwards, we didn't bring his name up either. I mean, ever since T.J. Edwards went into the starting lineup and Singleton moved back, and T.J. Edwards has been your middle linebacker, the D has been a little more physical, a little more in your face, a little bit. They've turned the corner a little bit.
Yeah. All right. Pete Thompson here, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. You're heading up to the Fly Guys tonight. Now, last night they had the alumni game, which I don't know what other alumni, maybe Montreal, Toronto, but how many would fill the building for an alumni game?
Yeah, I mean, I think they had about like 10 or 12,000. So certainly the entire lower bowl was full, and that's pretty damn impressive. The thing that I couldn't believe too, did you see Mike Knuble took a puck to the face?
Yeah, my girlfriend was actually, I had on what do they call the show on NBC in the morning, Sports Rise or whatever.
Yeah, sure. It's only a little 15-minute hit.
Yeah, and she says, what happened to him? I said, he got hit in the face with a puck. She goes, he looks old.
Yeah, because he's like 46.
Right? I said, well, it was an alumni game.
He said that's the hardest he's ever been hit. I don't know who shot the puck, but I do know that it went up Shell Samuelson's stick. Shocking, since Shell is gigantic out there, and went right up into Mikey K's teeth. And, the funny thing was, I also heard him talking about the fact that, his flight was delayed and he got to the building late. And, here he is out there in what's supposed to be a fun, exhibition type thing, and whappo, puck right in the face. But he's okay. So, looked good last night. Some of the younger guys, like Clark doesn't play anymore. And although Joe Watson was out there, the hockey player, not the guy from the casino, Joe Watson was out there at 78, bro. Skating last night.
Here's what I want to ask you. That's unbelievable, by the way. Here's what I want to ask you. It's amazing to me. Robert Esch was in goal last night, and I'm thinking, how do you still strap on all that equipment and play? How old's Robert Esch? Has got to be around 50, right?
Right. Yeah. No. I mean, these guys, first of all, they're string beans, and second of all, they're not football players that either bulk up.
Oh, Esch is only 43. Okay.
Yeah, but 43 to still be playing hockey at the level, I mean, look, if Bush was around and he didn't have Brian Boucher or Neil Little, it is hard to find goalies. The MVP of the game, by the way, was a guy off the Wounded Warrior team. They have these Flyers Warriors, these vets, and that was very nice that they did that. They gave the Warrior guy basically some time in the net and then named him the #1 star.
Okay, So let me get your thoughts on this whole Ellis situation.
Yeah, well, it's a little concerning to me. He came back for what, 1 game?
Yeah, I'm saying he came back, and now the fact that I guess they put him on the injured list, and there's some thoughts that he might need surgery.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I haven't heard from my peeps about what's going on, but I know this: they're calling it lower body. It's something he's been trying to fight through. The biggest concern to me was they had listed him as day-to-day. They take him on the trip. He plays in Dallas. He plays 28 minutes in Dallas, right? And after the game, the reporter's like, how'd you feel? Oh, I felt great. I was glad to be back out there. And then all of a sudden, that was Saturday. By Sunday, nowhere to be found, no maintenance, no skating. And all of a sudden, they changed his designation from day-to-day to week-to-week. That's the problem.
Yeah.
And this is your prized offseason protection or pickup or acquisition is the word I'm trying to look for. Sealer is up tonight, I believe, so he'll step in and see what he can do. But, hey, look, the last game I went to here in person was against the Kraken. I believe the final score was 6-1, and it had everything that I wanted in a hockey game. Scoring, goals, and a fight, or maybe 2. So I would love to see that again tonight. In fact, you know what I'd love to see? Have them do the ceremony at 6:30, and then have Talk just square off with, Jay Leach or some old Lanny McDonald, some old Calgary guy,
Yeah, well, so they have the Hall of Fame ceremony. It's Tocchet and Holmgren going in tonight. So the puck drop is going to be 7:38 is what I'm told.
Oh, that's interesting. I like that knowledge. Thank you. Knowledge is power, because 6:30 is when the presentation is supposed to begin. But that's the thing. They still have to have a warm-up skate and all that stuff afterwards, plus clear the podium and all those things and the long carpet.
It sounds like my little birdie had more information than your little birdie.
Well, that's because my little birdie's been staying up here, and again, he's, your birdie's good.
Well, they got some technology. It's called a phone, PT. He could have called you and told you, hey, don't come up so early. We're not starting till 7:38.
He was nice enough to call me and leave me a message and say that we couldn't ride up with him because he was already going to be here. So, and then you saw what a welcome greeting we got when we tried to park. So we're under I-95 right now. No, I'm kidding.
All right. So Pete Thompson, right now, the Eagles, 4-6. They are currently, I believe, the 10 seed. Do you think this team can make the playoffs? Yes or no?
Yes, I do. Absolutely. I think it's all set up in front of them. I think the fact that they've discovered the run game, that they lead the NFL in rushing since week 7, that they're second overall in rushing now behind the Browns. I mean, who would have said that early? And look, the defense does not have to be the 86 Bears, right? It just has to play well enough, kind of keep the scores down. And I thought the way that they played against the Broncos, not between the 20s maybe, but when the Broncos got near the end zone, and they got drives to the 3, the 4, the 10, each time that's where the Eagles squeezed in and bottled up. And that bodes well, I think.
I will say this. Simeon is not very good, the quarterback for the Saints this week. So that's what really I think is a very interesting thing. They got the number 1 rush defense in football. They're number 1 in the league against the run. But I don't know, man. Simeon's a big equalizer.
And then the other question is, now Kamara didn't play last week, but will Kamara be good enough? The Eagles, again, have done a better job. Like they did a decent job on Austin Eckler, except for the last drive when they played the Chargers. They certainly did a good job of both the running backs. I mean, yes, Gordon scored, but you're going to get that. But I think aside from that drive where Gordon just basically ran it down their throats and scored, I thought they did a decent job. Plus, scoring situation dictated that the Broncos went away from the run. But, boy, Kamara can be a game changer. If he's healthy and he plays, look out.
All right, Tuesday with Thompson, Pete Thompson. Here we'll be back on Happy Hour Friday right here on the Sports Bash. We'll get your pick for the game. And you're off this week. No locker room for you, I hear.
That is correct, because I am going to the game, and unlike Billy, I don't try to make a half commitment. I'm either all in or all out, and if I'm going to get up here early enough, if it was a 4 o'clock start like the Chargers game, no problem. But 1 o'clock start, got to get up here. I mean, you know me. I mean, if I'm going to park for 3 over there on Packer Avenue,
yeah,
get up there at least 2 hours.
So my girlfriend went to the game against the Chargers. I was on the phone with her for probably an hour trying to talk her into how to park because.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I felt bad about that, too. I forgot that now for Eagles game days, they basically like this. The lot I'm actually currently in is the D lot that used to be the media lot for Eagles games, like for the overflow media, right? But it's in the Wells Center parking lot. That gate used to be open, but only for media. And then the only gate now that they open up is what I think is considered it's the E gate, basically right off of Broad Street. And I'm sorry, I probably should have. After she texted me what happened, I felt really bad. Like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. But sorry.
Thank you. Yeah. She drove around and around and around and just why do they only have one gate open?
Ask the same guy that told me that even though I said I was on the radio, he didn't give a bleep.
All right, fair enough, Peter.
Monopoly, and we're not running it.
Enjoy the game tonight. Flyers and Flames. You can hear that game right here on 97.3 ESPN. Thank you, Pete.
All right, take care, buddy. Thanks.
All right, there's Pete Thompson. Tuesday with Thompson. A little fun there. Coming up, Rob Motti from the Associated Press set to join us as he does each and every Tuesday. We'll talk a little bit more about this Eagles team moving forward. He asked a question about Jalen Hurts yesterday. We're going to discuss his answer, Sirianni's answer to Motti. I want Motti's opinion on it next. Don't go away. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. By the way, Josh, did we give away the winners yet? Did I announce the winners for the 4 o'clock hour, the qualifiers? Who do we got?
You got Hugo in Egg Harbor City.
Hugo, Egg Harbor City. You know what's funny about Egg Harbor City? I just saw Bo Melton just got an invite to the Senior Bowl.
Ooh, fancy.
I mean, he's from Mays Landing, but he went to Cedar Creek, which is in
you got
Egg Harbor City. You're supposed to answer I said, which is in?
Wait, what?
Never mind. That went way over your head. You said Hugo from Egg Harbor City.
Yes.
And then I said Bo Melton. He's from Mays Landing, but Cedar Creek, which is in
Egg Harbor City.
There you go.
Okay.
That's why I pulled the Bo Melton story in here.
Sorry, my mom was going back to the other story about
Josh
Bo
can only
Melton.
do one thing at a time. I got you.
My mom was going to the other thing about Bo Melton, about Cincinnati. So
No, that's JoJo Bermudez
From
is
Cedar
going to Cincinnati.
anyway,
Yeah, JoJo Bermudez is a wide receiver currently. Bo Melton's at Rutgers.
right.
Come on.
That's why my mind was all mixed up. Anyway, we got Mike from Upper Deerfield,
Mike in Upper Deerfield. What's that, like Cumberland?
Bridgeton.
Same thing.
Not exactly, but sure.
I think Upper Deerfield is where Cumberland Regional is.
Sure. I don't
Somebody fact check Josh on that.
know. Fact check me. You're the one who said it.
I know, but I said Cumberland. I think I'm right. You told me Bridgeton.
Well, that's what the guy on the phone told me.
He's wrong. All right, one other. Give me the other one.
Fine. And the last one is Phyllis from Dennisville.
All right, Phyllis in Dennisville. I don't
know
know
where
where that is.
Dennisville is?
No.
Of course not.
All right,
That's where I live.
Rob Motti. That's where you live. I thought you lived in Belle Plaine.
They're next to each other.
Sports Bash Live. All right, 532 Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the free mobile app. And, of course, Rob Motti from the Associated Press is here as we take a look at the Eagles with another win here, Rob. And I know that some people still don't want to hear it, but every win kind of gets you more and more realistic into a playoff conversation. We'll get into that. Also, you asked a very interesting question to Nick Sirianni yesterday, and I want to start off with that. You mentioned, hey, some people are not considering Jalen Hurts a franchise-level quarterback. What would you kind of say to those people by the caveat of you saying that it wasn't you saying that? You're just saying that that could be some of the noise. He said, watch the last 3 games. My question for you is, with that answer, do you think that the organization has an answer to the question?
I don't know yet, Mike, and I still don't know myself whether or not Jalen is, but I just feel like the people who are so quick to dismiss him, and they've done it since last year, they've done it every time there's a bad throw or there's a inconsistent game or he throws for 50% or less, and all of a sudden he's not a franchise quarterback. And I know that the organization was interested in certainly Deshaun Watson, and they had interest in trading up in the draft. So they're not sure about him. But I think at this point, what we've seen, especially in the last 3 games, is that he's got potential. He's not there yet. But why are people so quick to dismiss him? Is it because he was a second-round pick? I don't think it's fair. I put up a tweet yesterday, Mike, and it was just a simple statement of fact that this year, Jalen Hurts has 1 fewer win than Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow, and 1 more than Tua. And those are the 3 quarterbacks chosen ahead of him last year. And all of a sudden people interpret it as like, I'm saying he is a franchise quarterback or whatever. It was just saying these are the statement. This is where it is right now. Now, those guys are considered franchise quarterbacks. Tua isn't at this point, and they're looking to move on. But I don't see why we can't give Jalen Hurts the entire season, the full season, as we see him grow, as we see him develop. He's certainly got some of these qualities and these characteristics and the intangibles that we talked about. And I think it's still too soon to automatically dismiss him.
Rob, his numbers are very favorable through 14 games to a guy named Donovan McNabb. In fact, they're all better. Every one of his numbers, completion percentage, yards, touchdowns, interceptions, rushing yards, they're all better than Donovan McNabb through 14 games. Now, I know McNabb's a pretty polarizing guy, but if Hurts turned out to be a McNabb-esque player, do you have something?
Well, you most definitely do. And here's the difficulty, though, right? When we're comparing guys now to guys back in Donovan's era, is they throw the ball even as much as Andy threw the ball back then. Now teams are throwing the ball significantly more. And I tried to do that comparison last year when Carson was throwing interceptions, saying, hey, he's right there with Peyton Manning interceptions, Ben Roethlisberger interceptions when they played. And I heard, well, you can't compare the 2000s to the 2020s. So, you look at it from that perspective and you go, maybe. But I think Jalen Hurts, what I've seen, is a guy who certainly you can win football games with. And they've done it, and they've done it by relying a lot on the run. And that helps him. It helps any young quarterback. It helps any team. Look at the Packers against the Seahawks in Lambeau on Sunday. Aaron Rodgers wasn't all that good. He didn't throw a touchdown. He threw an interception. They ran the ball, and they ran the ball well. And if you can run the ball effectively, you're going to win games in the NFL. And I think that the Eagles have hit on a formula now, a winning formula, and let's see if they can continue, because the schedule, Mike, you and I have talked about this a lot, is very favorable.
I want to get your opinion on the shift in philosophy. Is it a shift in philosophy? Is it just growth as a coach? And what you've seen from Nick Sirianni, you talk to him almost weekly. You're in those press conferences. Do you see a guy who's growing on the job and realize somewhere, I either have to make a change or I'm going to be in some trouble?
I think he most definitely is learning on the job, growing in his position, learning from mistakes, evolving. And I think it's foolish to think anybody wouldn't do that, especially when it's a a young first-time head coach who had never called plays, who had never been in this position. To think that Nick Sirianni is going to be the same coach in week 10 as he was in week one is just silly. And I know that people didn't want to give him a chance, and people wanted to bury him after he made an analogy about flowers and all that. But we're so quick to judge people. We're so quick to hot take everything, Mike, that everybody has to come to a conclusion about Jalen, about Nick every single week and not allow the season to play itself out. This team right now has an opportunity to win 8 or 9 football games. And if Nick Sirianni does that in his first season with the talent that he has, I think that's phenomenal.
Oh, I agree. I mean, here's one of the things is, in my opinion, Rob, a lot of people, we talk about playoffs. I get the Jim Mora gift sent to me almost every single time.
Yeah.
It's almost like people don't want to make the playoffs, or they don't think it's realistic. And part of that, in my mind, might be this team is a little further along than people almost want to give them credit for, which means you have to give credit to who?
You'd have to give credit to Howie Roseman, and I think people are very reluctant to do that. And I know that Howie's everybody's favorite whipping boy, and I know I've been critical of Howie, and I think there are aspects where you most definitely can be critical of Howie Roseman.
1,000%, by the way, 1,000%.
But at the same time, you still at times, I will always say you can never take the Super Bowl away from him. You can't do that. He won a Super Bowl. Now it's 4 years removed from the Super Bowl. I know what people think of him. I know what former players think of him. I know what some players within the building right now on the roster think of him. That said, if this team makes the playoffs, has a winning record, or is even at 8 wins, there's no 500 anymore because you play 17 games unless you tie. I think that's an incredibly successful season.
Yeah, and it's, look, they probably would be a lot better had they hit on a couple of drafts before. But I think one of the big storylines over the last couple of years was Roseman coming out, which I was surprised by, admitting that they went off script a little bit and did some things that they didn't normally do because they thought they could go win another Super Bowl. So maybe they miscalculated that, and then miscalculating that put them a little bit behind where they should be. When they signed guys like Deshaun Jackson, when they went out and got some more veteran players, they brought back some more veteran players. Those are things that this organization typically would not have done.
Yeah, and I don't think they were wrong in feeling like there was a window to keep winning. I don't think that was wrong at all. I think some of the draft picks that we know and are very well documented, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside over DK Metcalf, last year Jalen Reagor over Justin Jefferson, those are obvious. But I don't think before that they were wrong, Mike, in trying to win with the talent that they had coming off the Super Bowl and a team that went back to the playoffs 2 years after that. So it was understandable. Hey, Deshaun Jackson came in and was incredible in his first game, and then he just couldn't stay healthy. And look at him now. He's still somehow healthy. He made a great play the other night for the Raiders and then fumbled the ball. But this is a team now where we're at a point they got to make a lot of tough decisions. And I don't think they within the building have come to those determination, that conclusion. And you got to see how this season plays out because there's some hope. There's some potential. Are you afraid of any team left on this schedule? Nobody.
No. I mean, obviously, when you play Dallas, if Dallas has to win that game, they're just flat out better than you are. But by week 18, who knows where they're going to be? They might be shutting it down by that time of the year. This team this week, the Saints team is probably the best team you have left.
Yeah, and the defense for the Saints is incredibly difficult and tough. And Demario Davis is one of the best players, one of the best linebackers in the NFL. And they got a lot of guys up front. Hey, our old friend Malcolm Jenkins in the secondary still doing things. I saw how they kind of shut down somewhat, not completely, but the Buccaneers 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, whenever it was before Tampa's bye, and they're a team that this is a great test, Mike, I think, for Jalen Hurts in this offense, because if you can move the ball well, if you can put some points up on the board against the Saints, I don't think they can keep up with the Eagles from that standpoint, whether it's Trevor Siemian, Taysom Hill. I don't care who's quarterbacking for them. I'll take Jalen Hurts over their quarterback trio, including Jameis Winston, and I know he's down.
And Rob, this kind of leads, last week the defense was competent again. And Trevor Siemian, I mean, holy mackerel. I mean, he's got to be, of the quarterbacks left, I don't know. I don't know what the Jets are going to do. I don't know what Tyler Heineke, where you put him, but Siemian is not very good. So
yeah.
I don't know. Do we feel like John Gadden's defense is equipped enough against the Heinekes, the Daniel Jones, the Mike Whites, and the Trevor Siemians of the world?
I certainly think so. We know they had trouble with the elite quarterbacks. None of these guys, until Dak, like you said, week 18, is considered elite or anything remotely close to it. Jalen Hurts wins the one-on-one quarterback battle each week from here on out until they face Dallas. And I think this is a chance for Jonathan Gannon's defense to build on some of the success that they've had recently and what they did to Denver and Teddy Bridgewater, who I also don't think is all that good either. But you got to continue that. And this might be a week where you need that defense to step up a little extra because of everything I just said about the Saints defense being so tough. And it might be one where you have to try and win 20-17, 19-16, something like that.
Rob Motti from the Associated Press. And another thing, we talked about playoffs. You talked to Russell Wilson, and, obviously he didn't look all that good. They looked terrible. They didn't score the other day. And, I thought him coming back would give Seattle, they're now 3-6. I mean, that 6-7 area of the playoffs in the NFC, that's just going to be a jumbled mess. It's probably going to come down maybe to week 18.
Yeah, and that was a huge win for the 49ers last night over the Rams, and that allows them to really put themselves in position. And as you look at it right now, you got Carolina at 5-5 and Cam coming back, but Saints are 5-4, Carolina's 5-5, but Minnesota, San Fran are right there at 4-5. Falcons, I don't think, can hang around till the end of the season, and I think the Eagles, of the teams of those Saints, Panthers, Vikings, 49ers, Falcons, Eagles, they have a real shot to be one of these two. And I think the Saints, Vikings, 49ers are right there. Panthers got such a good defense, Mike, that bringing in Cam is going to help them. But they still got to play Tampa Bay twice, and they got a tougher schedule the rest of the way. So it's going to be wide open, and it is going to come back down to December. And who would have thought coming into this season that the Eagles are playing meaningful football games late in the season with a chance to play into January? Now, I know they finished the season. They got 2 games actually this year now, right? January 2nd, January 9th, but I'm talking about playoff football in January.
Right. Well, it all comes down to, in my opinion, and this is like before the season started, I said, hey, if that offensive line stays healthy, they can compete almost every week if they game plan right. They didn't early, and the line, which is your strength, they made obsolete essentially. Now you have this offensive line, you're running behind it, and they're playing a lot better football.
Yeah, and Jalen's growing, man. He's growing in the pocket. He's learning from, Nick said yesterday in that 4-minute answer to my question that he doesn't make the same mistake twice. And that's extremely impressive for a young kid. And guess what? He's protecting the football, man. He's really protecting the football, and that's crucial. And when you got a guy who can be dynamic, who can create plays with his legs, he burst out for a 30-yard run. He probably had a nice pass there, too, to Jordan Howard. But, hey, he took off and ran 30 yards. He's a dual threat. He's doing a lot of things, and he's able to grow and mature and learn and develop. And I think we certainly haven't seen the best of Jalen Hurts yet. And to me, at this point right now, Mike, I'm taking him over anybody in the draft. I don't want to trade any picks to move up. I don't want to take a quarterback in the first round. The only guy I want is Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers. And like you said, I spoke to Russell Wilson. We didn't talk about it in the interview on air, but there ain't no way Russell Wilson's coming to Philly. So let's just forget about that. That's not happening. Neither is Aaron Rodgers. So I would like to see them build around Jalen and give him even another year after this.
Well, I agree with that notion that I don't like the quarterbacks in this draft. If I have 3 picks, which I feel pretty good that I will, I'm taking the best player on defense all 3 times. And I feel pretty good offensively that group can grow together, grow as an offensive line. Smith, Watkins, Goddard, the running game, let that group grow together and get me 3 players in that first round that can play defense, and I feel pretty good.
I would definitely at least take 2 defensive players, but you're right. It's got to be a 2 or 3 defensive player draft, and then depending on where they are, I still wouldn't be opposed to taking a playmaker if there's one that you want. Dallas Goedert's had another concussion protocol. I'm concerned a little bit about that because when you start seeing a guy like, how many is this? I've lost track. I'm not sure with Dallas, but I know he's had at least one other one and maybe even one more. So that's an area where you have to become a little bit concerned if there's a tight end out there or something like that. But yeah, you got to identify defense, and I want to see them build around Jalen Hurts. Now, over the last 7 games, he could completely fall apart, and I would change my thinking. But as I see, and to quote Nick, his arrow is pointing upward. Well, his arrow is pointing upward, and I haven't seen any indication to think why it's not going to continue. And based on that, I think he should be the franchise, or at least given an opportunity in 2022.
Rob Monty from the Associated Press. He's back on Thursday here. We'll take a look closer at the Eagles and the Saints right here on the Sports Bash. Rob, thanks, man.
Thank you, Mike.
There he is, Rob Monty. Of course, check out Faith on the Field Saturday mornings at 9 o'clock, Sunday 6:30 here on the Sports Bash. We'll wrap up the show coming up next. All right, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. Getting ready to wrap up a Tuesday show. It's been a fast, fun show for you. Thanks to everybody who was a part of the show today. First album, tape, CD you ever bought. Thanks to everybody who responded to that today. 609-403-0973. Josh has game night up next. He'll be talking with Kevin Durso in about 20 minutes from now. Give you a little preview of the Flyers and Calgary Flames, and you can hear that game live on 97.3 ESPN. We'll also be carrying the Sixers and the Jazz tonight. Excuse me, that game at 10 o'clock, and you can hear it only on 97.3 ESPN. I'm Mike Gill. Josh Henning produced today's show, and of course, you out there, I'll be back tomorrow. Busy show on a Wednesday. We'll get you ready start to take a look ahead anyway for the Eagles and the Saints. Mike McGarry, Paul Hudrick, Jeff Mosher, my NFL Fine Five, Ugly Five, Five Best, Five Worst Teams, Cup of Joe. We'll talk just NFL, just good chop it up with Joe Valerio, Jeff Kerr, and you. Two more chances to qualify for 99 bottles on tomorrow's show. Congratulations to all our qualifiers. Final week after tomorrow. You have 1 week left before 99 bottles. Have a great rest of your Tuesday, everybody.